Hi, this is County Judge Samaniego. The 2020 census count is incredibly important for El Paso. It helps our school, healthcare, food and housing programs get the money they need.
This is County Commissioner Vince Bettis for Precinct 3. With your participation, the programs that support affordable housing, public education, and affordable health care can receive the funding they deserve.
This is Commissioner Carl L. Robinson, Precinct 4. Without you, these programs could not be successful.
This is Commissioner David Stout. Participate online, by phone, or by mail. Everyone in El Paso County must be counted, even children and babies. Your responses are safe and required by law to be kept confidential.
Hi, this is Commissioner Carlos Leon from Precinct 1. Let's come together and fill out those 2020 census. Together and fearless, we count.
The County of El Paso Public Works Department is offering sandbags at no cost or requirements to the public. The sandbags are outside of the facilities and are available 24 hours a day. The location of the county facilities are the following: the Road and Bridge Fabens Warehouse, located at 1331 North Fabens Street in Fabens, Texas, 79838. The Road and Bridge Canutillo Warehouse, located at 191 Canutillo Avenue in Canutillo, Texas, 79835. And the Road and Bridge Montana Warehouse, located at 14698 Van Lane, El Paso, Texas, 79938. Don't wait in line, pay online. Visit the Financial Recovery Division website at http://www.epcounty.com/budget/financialrecovery.htm to make your payments online or find out more about our kiosk locations. We now accept payments on misdemeanor, felony, and justice of the peace cases.
You can now watch Commissioners' Court meetings on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for El Paso County Commissioners or El Paso County, Texas. Subscribe to our channels to see our latest videos. Did you know the County of El Paso's Purchasing Department is responsible for ensuring that all items and services needed by various county departments are purchased in the manner required by the state of Texas? Whether through formal sealed bids or smaller dollar quotations, the county purchasing team is dedicated to finding the best contracting return on your taxpayer dollars. Additionally, the Purchasing Department is responsible for the tracking of inventory within the county and properly disposing surplus through public auctions. For questions about how to become a vendor and compete for county contracts, or to learn more about public auctions, please contact us at telephone number 915-546-2048.
The 346 District Court Judge Angie Juarez Barril started the El Paso Veterans Treatment Court program in 2012 for veterans and active service members that have been arrested and charged with a felony or misdemeanor criminal offense. To be considered for this specialty court, the statutory criteria includes be a veteran or current member of the United States Armed Forces, including a member of the Reserves, National Guard, or State Guard, and suffer from a brain injury, mental illness, or mental disorder, including PTSD, or be a victim of military sexual trauma, all occurring or resulting from military service. Call Sylvia Serna, Veterans Program Director, at 915-546-2119, or email her at sserna@epcounty.com for any information.
Did you know that the County of El Paso's fixed asset control and inventory disposal is handled through the Purchasing Department? Throughout the course of each business year, the county holds live public auctions to dispose of aged equipment, vehicles, furniture, and other items that are no longer needed. To find out about upcoming auctions or to learn more about the county's inventory disposal process, contact the purchasing department at telephone number 915-546-2048.
Okay, we're up. Go ahead, Jessica.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, July 16, 2020. Commissioners Court is meeting in special session. Joining us today, we have ASL interpreters Tamara Gasalum and Dario Garcia. Would you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is public comment. At this time, we do not have anybody signed up to speak for public comment. At this time, Judge, we'd like to go ahead and move to item number 9, executive session. Commissioners Court will recess into executive session to discuss item 9A and 9B pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Commissioners Court will reconvene to take official action.
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, we're up, Jessica.
Commissioners Court has reconvened into special open session. Item number 4 from the regular agenda. Receive a presentation regarding the current revenue forecast, various financial and budget-related information, and employee compensation and program updates for consideration in the fiscal year 2021 budget and take appropriate action.
Judge, Commissioners, I'm not sure. Oh, there's Wally. Thank you, Wally.
Good morning, everyone. Wally Hargrove from the Office of Budget and Fiscal Policy. Before you is the presentation. Today's presentation is in preparation for our upcoming budget hearings that are scheduled for August with an adoption in September. This also will touch base on update on our tax revenues and your upcoming adoption for September as well. Next slide, please. So these are the auditor's revenue forecast. These revenue forecasts were received in June of 2020. I have received an updated revenue forecast in the last 48 hours. Those are not included in this number, so I'm just going to give you the latest update that was certified by the uncertified by the auditor but provided. So as of June of 2020, our revenues estimated by the auditors was $301.5 million. The data that you're going to will be updated for you every month, and we'll provide you with the most relevant financial data to allow you to make your final budget decisions for our adoption in September. Areas that are subject to change on this revenue estimate, of course, are property tax. You received in your highlights the preliminary value updates that we sent you from Central Appraisal District as of April 29th. We've given you 4 updates through July 6th. Current value is at $46.5 billion, and our preliminary net new tax value was $802 million. That's consistent with the last 3 years. We've been averaging between $750 and $780 million in new property value. If you wanted to know what that equates to from a revenue stream for potential new taxable revenues, that's about $3.9 million. I expect that number to come down just a little bit because this is the yet to be certified value. So it should end up somewhere between $760 and $800 million. And we could anticipate about $3.5 to $3.9 million of new tax revenue. Other areas that are subject to change are sales tax. 2 months ago, our sales tax were down 13%. The month after that, 11%. And this month, just to let you know how fluid this event is, we were up 4.92%. So the comment I made to you last month, Judge, about what keeps me up at night is literally the fiscal uncertainties that we're going through right now with the economy. Last area that is most subject to change are charges for services. The estimates that you see before you have been adjusted for changes in volume based on our current activity and our volume here in the County of El Paso. The largest single charge for services that is subject to change is the contract we have with the U.S. Marshal's Office. You'll see a highlight come through this week from Mrs. Keller, but we opened our oral negotiations yesterday with the federal government, and we anticipate that number to have a positive impact for our revenue output for fiscal year 2021. Next slide, please. So this slide gives you a representation of the historical revenues, expenses, and fund balance. It also provides you with estimates through June of 2020, which is the center column you see there, fiscal year 20 estimate, and gives you projections through fiscal year 2024. There are some underlying assumptions that go into place looking at our historical revenues, but Overall, our focus wants to remain on our goal of aligning our revenues and expenses for the County of El Paso. So under this assumption, you'll see that our revenue growth is averaging about 2.5% into the future. And if we can maintain our expenditure growth in the 2% range for the general fund, we hopefully by the year 2024 can bring our revenue and expenditure into alignment in that $325 million range, which is the final column you see on your far right-hand side. Next slide, please. This is just a graphical representation of the data you had in the prior slide. But as you can see toward the right hand of the center of the graph, fiscal year 2020 is where we anticipate ending as of last month, and moving out towards fiscal year 2024. As I mentioned, if we can live under those assumptions of 2.5% revenue growth and maintain our expenditure growth at 2% in the general fund, we would hope to bring those two lines together at $325 million of revenue and expense, which would also, as you see the bottom line graph there, would smooth out our fund balance and make that a sustainable fund balance into the near future. Next slide, please. This is sort of like a summary of our budget register that we've been presenting to you for the last couple of years. We started the year at $92 million. I'm talking on the column on the left, for beginning reserves. As of the end of June, our revenues were estimated at $294 million. You'll see those be revised for the July when we enter our budget hearings in a few weeks. Expenses estimated at $300 million with an ending reserve balance of 87. Rolling that reserve balance into FY21 as a starting balance, if we had estimated actual revenues of about $302 million and expenses in the $306 million range, we could anticipate about a $5 million consumption in our reserves. Again, this is just the estimates for at this stage in time, based off of changes on a month-to-month basis. You may see this number going up and down. I don't anticipate material changes, but you may see some small changes in the near future. The next few slides I'm going to go over with you are going to be recaps of our property tax history, our property tax rates, and how we compare to other urban communities throughout the state of Texas. Your first property tax slide just shows you the current property tax history and comparisons. So you'll see out to the far right, fiscal year 2020, we had our rate adopted at 0.488997. As a component of that overall tax rate, the small bar on the right-hand side of each solid bar shows your interest and sinking rate, and we were just over 4.3 cents. So we have a little less than, right at 9% as our rate for paying off our debt, and that is a very manageable debt level, and we get noted for that in the Comptroller's annual report that the state puts out. Next slide, please. This just shows you what our debt is as a percentage of our maintenance and operating. If you go all the way back to fiscal year 2010, we were at 11%. The highest we've ever been was fiscal years 2013 through 15 at 13 and 12%. And we've been maintaining 9% for the last 2 years. And I anticipate that rate to come in very similar for fiscal year 2021 as our debt and interest payments for next year are relatively flat. So I expect that 9% to hold for the third year in a row. Next slide, please. This just shows where the CPI has gone since 2010 all the way up to fiscal year 2020 and its relation to change as to the change in our property tax rates. Next slide, please. This just shows the current population that we have pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, and showing what our population is in comparison to the other rural counties. The reason we show this out there is we're going to show you some per capita budget numbers and some expenditure numbers in relation to population as well. You'll see El Paso onto the far right side at just over 840,000 above, in between Denton and Fort Bend. Next slide, please. Urban county tax rate comparisons. You've got Hidalgo at the far left-hand side at just over 57 cents. El Paso, just to the right of it, at the second highest rate for urban counties at just under 49 cents. And all the way out to the far right, you'll see a relation to tax rates and property values. You've got Denton County at a low of 17.5%. So we are one of the higher urban counties as far as a tax rate comparison. Next slide, please. As you look at our, as you look at this slide for the property value at market, property tax rates on with property value, and you'll see somewhat of a correlation of lower property values have generally a higher property tax rate per $100 valuation. And then on the right-hand side where you see property values and the tax rate, you see somewhat of a similar smooth trend line with higher property values and a direct correlation to the relative value of their property tax rates. Next slide. As we lay our fiscal year 2020 budget over the population table, you'll also see somewhat of a correlation with the trend line here and a relationship between population and the total value of this population. You'll see El Paso right there in the middle of the chart at $381 million with our budget. I will remind you on that $381 million budget, $29 million of our budget is not day-to-day operating. That is our emergency reserve. Only a few counties budget their emergency reserve. I know Bexar County is one of them. Probably about 3 out of the top 10 do budget an emergency reserve. But there is a direct correlation to the size of the budget to the population of the community. So we're not terribly out of alignment with that. Pretty close to the average. Next slide, please. Budgets for all the counties also, and come up with a budget per capita. So right in the middle is the average budget per capita at $339 per capita for the general fund. So you'll see El Paso on the far left-hand side, a little over $453 per capita. That does also take into account our $29 million reserve. If we didn't include that, it would drop that down just a little bit. But so we're on budget per capita, we're just a little bit over the average. You'll see the far right-hand side counting is a little bit under that average per capita at $339. Lowest being Collin County at $220 per capita. That's all of our tax discussion as far as comparable budget per capita and urban taxation. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So other areas that we've been providing to the court for additional review and discussion. In the next few slides, we'll cover economic development and our 381 agreements. We'll give you a review and a recap on our fee and pay proposals, summary of our legal claims and outside counsel, jail population trends, moving towards the vision for the past county year, how we have moved towards our achieving our county vision. And I may have got one bullet in there that shouldn't belong right now. I apologize. We'll do other project discussion, and then we'll close out with our future strategic plan discussion. Next slide, please. Yes, ma'am.
Wally, I believe Melissa covered the jail population trends last month.
She did. That's the one bullet I inadvertently left in the presentation. Thank you. So on our 381 economic development, you'll see a list of all of our agreements that we have budgeted for fiscal year 2021. In total, on the far right-hand side, we anticipate paying out $1.5 million in our tax agreements. In next month's presentation on our roll-in PowerPoint, we'll also show you the return on investment and what we have for inflow coming in from these 381 agreements as well. Next slide, please. So on our fee and pay proposals, your county clerk's office will have their county clerk records archive fee on your agenda for Monday the 27th. They just ran their ad in the paper this Sunday, and that ad has to run for 15 days prior to your adoption of the fee. This Monday on the 13th, you already approved your district clerk archive fee. In June 15th, you set the road cut and pipeline permit fees. By the way, all three of these fees, which have stayed the same. Our constable and sheriff fees, we don't take action on those until the latter part of August. Reason being is based off of changes in rates of pay for salary for our sheriff's deputies and our constables. Those fees are adjusted accordingly with change of rates in pay. The county parks fees is still under review. There were no proposed changes for your parking fees, for your parking garages and your surface parking. And you approved your juror pay rates to remain the same at $10 for the partial day and $40 for a full day. You set those rates on July 6th. So there's only a couple of fees remaining that need to be have action taken on to be included with your fiscal year 21 budget. Next slide, please. This is just a recap of your legal fees and your settlements. So far right column is fiscal year 2020 settlements to date, just under $3,000. So by far, this is the lowest we've paid in the past recent history. And if you look at the 2015 through 20 in total, about $3.5 million. We work with the legal counsel closely. You received an overview last month in executive session of what our exposure is, and with the fiscal year 2021 budget that you'll be receiving at the end of next week, we set those settlement and legal counsel fees after consult with the county attorney's office. Next slide. This just shows you a recap of what you've paid for outside legal representation from 2015 to date. You can see on the far right-hand side, just prior to the total column, that for fiscal year 2020 to date on this report, we've paid about $122,000 for outside legal counsel. We did receive 2 new invoices this week from the county attorney's office. That'll bring that total up to about $132,000 for the fiscal year. But again, this is for this fiscal year, that's far below the 5-year average. 5-year average has been about $400,000 a year for outside representation. This year, we're going to come in somewhere between $135,000 to $150,000 at this rate. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, we wanted to give you an overview of what's work is in progress or what has been accomplished for the past year and moving the county towards its county vision. This year, we've undertaken the economic development, impact, and healthy food initiatives. Several agreements have been signed and are underway. Your flood control projects are in their final design. You've got about $3.8 million in flood control projects that were approved by the Commissioner's Court earlier this year, and those are in the final design stages. As you're well aware, we have undertaken the census project and recently enhanced that, and that is well underway. You've contracted out for an internal operations study that is well underway, and we expect to have final results in the next few months and presentation to the Commissioner's Court. You're about to receive in the next few weeks an update for the jail study. It is now at the presentation stage on the feasibility for best usage and utilization and what the potential impact may be for any redesign or reutilization that we do. The rural transit project that we had funded for fiscal year 20 has been deferred to fiscal year 2021, but also of note is at a significantly reduced cost to the county. We had originally budgeted about $2 million for rural transit, and for fiscal year 2021, that estimate is about $800,000. So a significant reduction in the deferral of this project. Your enhanced magistration project has begun and is fully funded for fiscal year 2021, and you'll be receiving an update later in this presentation from Human Resources on that activity. Your constable project and assessment for staffing has been fully implemented to include any resources that were necessary for operating costs and operating equipment. Your subdivision design standards interlocal has been approved, and that project is underway. In the spring of this year, we engaged the final contract for your investment advisory services. So that project is well underway as well, and we get weekly updates on market and recommendations. They review our investment policy and our investment procedures and make recommendations in the investment of county funds. And then our park master plan is also underway. Next slide, please. One of the impacts for fiscal year 2020 was our employee wage adjustment, new collective bargaining agreement, our judicial and elective pay plans, all of which have been put into effect. and are now part of the 2020 operating expenses and are carrying into 2021 as new projected cost. Your animal welfare program successfully transitioned from the Sheriff's Animal Control Division to new animal welfare. You're going to get a detailed report on that later in this presentation from Ms. Carrillo. We have set up the August 3rd Incident Defense Fund that is underway. It is budgeted for fiscal year 2021 as well. There is a recommended increase. We've met with the Council of Judges and the judge as to the amount that needs to be set up for fiscal year 2021. So that is going to be part of your recommended budget. Migrant service coordination efforts have also begun and are staffed and underway. Your indigent defense study has been completed. The Coliseum and Amphitheater study is out to bid. This year in fiscal year 2020, you increased your partial jury day pay from $6 to $7. We have made a recommendation to defer any further increases until we get through this current financial situation. But the $7 a day is budgeted for fiscal year 2021. Ongoing capital replacement program was initiated this year. You enhanced capital financing by $5.4 million. And we do have a recommendation to fund ongoing capital in fiscal year 2021. It is a reduced amount, but there is certainly a value to continuing the ongoing capital replacement program. Road paving and maintenance and mobility projects are well underway, and you'll be receiving a detailed update on those in your rolling presentation for budget we give to you in August. And lastly, our homelessness and reentry programs also have begun and are underway as strategically planned for your 2020 operating budget. So other under the court's values and the 2020 budget deferrals and discussion, we did defer the traffic calming study that was funded and carried over from prior years, a one-time amount of $125,000. I'll open it up for discussion at the end of this next two slides as to the court's desire to maintain that deferral. You deferred the cross-border survey at $40,000, the auditor study for $60,000. Want to find out right now we don't have a funder for FY 2021, and the recommendation is we consider funding at a later date if that's still the court's desire. In fiscal year 2020, we did defer paving in the amount of $400,000 when we made the mid-year 3% budget reductions. Paving is been fully funded for next year. At a similar amount, $4.2 million for fiscal year 2021. You also deferred this year the binational affairs at $75,000. So if any of these one-time deferrals, the desire is to include those for fiscal year 2021, would open up for discussion in the next two slides.
Wally, before you do that,
yes, ma'am.
It might be easier because some of these, it may be the easier, I know you want to go through them all, but some of these we would not recommend, like the traffic calming study, with everything that we have going on with the subdivision plan review and with our comprehensive mobility projects, where we're actually implementing traffic calming measures into several of those. We're not asking or recommending that those funds, we're not recommending that project be continued.
Correct.
And on the auditor's study as well, $60,000 would not be enough. And so we're recommending that be something that be undertaken at a later date when we're more certain of our financial situation.
Yes, and that the same goes for the cross-border study at this point in time and the binational affairs, unless the desire of the court is to consider reinstating those for fiscal year 2021.
I didn't have that recommendation on the cross-border survey or the binational. I think that was up to the court. But these other two, from a staff perspective, we're not requesting.
Yes, ma'am. Looking at court values and the 2021 budget discussion, we do have additional parks grant match budgeted. Our digital library was suspended in 2020. At this point in time, have not funded the full operation or the operation of digital library at this point in time. The compensation study that we've been doing for the last 7 years at $300,000 a year was suspended for 2020 and is currently not in the 2021, but it would open for discussion with the court. Likewise, non-essential travel. We suspended travel in our April meeting. We are going to effectuate a cost avoidance between $350,000 and $400,000 for fiscal year 2021. Right now, I have it in at $350,000 for essential and legislative travel needs for 2021. One of the items that is still we suspended operating equipment budget in 2020. It is still currently level funded in fiscal year 2021 at $1.5 million across the general fund. And this is something that, as we look at any and all of these, the level of budget that we have set and recommended at this point in time, I think strategically, with the current financial condition that we're in, we could defer taking action on some of these until we see how the first quarter of operation goes. So as we discuss what we have in the budget, and you get a presentation on the next item from Mr. Landeros on our mobility projects, to the extent that we have ongoing capital in the budget, totaling $8 million, that we have our 60311 operating equipment in the budget at $1.5 million. As I've given you this recap and overview, with departments submitting their 5% reductions on their eligible operating accounts, and based on where we believe we're going to finish the fiscal year, I don't think at this time the court needs to take any additional action to make additional cuts. However, it may be wise for us to consider suspending and just holding off on some of our large capital recommendations and investments until we get a couple months into the fiscal year. If the financial condition were to be of such to where we had to take additional action, similar to what we've done in the past, the county has been very responsive, your county department heads and elected officials, when we've had to make mid-year or take interim action to manage our expenditures in alignment with our revenues. I think at this point in time, there's not an immediate need for additional cuts, but I think we should also take into consideration perhaps keeping these items in the budget, but also maybe deferring some of the investment in these until we get through potentially what could be a second wave this fall and this winter. I do have one more item on the slide. I did mention the reduced capital spending. We have $9.4 million in for 2020 with a recommendation to bring that down to $8 million for 2021. And to the extent that we have that funded, where we have critical areas of need for some capital replacement that are important for the continuity of operations and the efficient operations, we'd recommend that we do a few of those as needed. And your capital committee, with their subject matter experts from Public Works, Information Technology, County Administration, and Fleet Management, could review that. And if there's any interim capital investments that need to be made through the first quarter, we could do those on a case-by-case basis and not allocate the entire $8 million at the beginning of the fiscal year, and see how we weather the financial challenge that's in front of us with COVID-19 and get through the fall and winter before we do a lump sum allocation of those. Next slide, please. So, Ms. Keller, did you want to go ahead and speak on this one?
Thank you. So normally during budget, we work into the budget various things from your strategic plan. However, this particular year, you all created your strategic plan or started working on your strategic plan right as we were heading into COVID. It was in March of this year. And looking through the plan that's been created or that's been drafted, it brings to mind the impact that COVID has had on our operations and on our departments. So we would recommend that the court has a special session just with members of the court. I don't know that we need to bring back in the facilitator, but to revisit the plan and to look at what items are something that we can realistically move forward, which ones have a more significant financial impact, and revisit that if the court would be so willing. The other thing is we can set up a reserve for any initiatives or reallocate from existing reserves, contingencies, or postpone. We right now are working under a 5-year strategic plan. So if you did nothing this year, we'd continue to work on the existing plan. But if you wanted to go through and look and see what was going to have major cost impacts for fiscal year 2021, we could do that and postpone those for fiscal year 2022. But I wanted to gauge with the court the interest in having a special session to revisit those items that were discussed earlier this year, pre-COVID.
You know, Betsy, you and I discussed, how do we approach the fact that 2020 seems pretty much, the entire year, it doesn't look good at all. I think it would be good for us to, do some forecast scenarios as to, we've heard a lot of rumors about shutting down, trying to get a hold of the situation by shutting down prior to the school. If we go in a little further with these numbers and we get a second wave, the shutdown becomes even more inevitable. So I think it would be good for us to understand like what would happen if we did have a shutdown. What are the indicators? What are the impacts that we're going to have? Like I said, one of the things that people are feeling at this point, and some of the county judges, is that if we do have a shutdown, they see it almost as favorable prior to opening the schools. Because have you seen the huge momentum towards opening the schools, and that there's social, the social development is going to be impacted in our children, and so there's a huge amount of people that feel that the opening of the schools is extremely important, from political to every element. Like I said, also from the social, psychological component of the development of children and staying out at the early years for such a long time frame. So I think we need to look at what would happen if the wave comes, and then what does that mean? What would happen if we had a shutdown? And what would happen if we were at 50%? Some of other indicators or people are saying that it might be a 50% thing throughout the entire year. And it's not moving back, but not moving forward. So I think we need to understand those scenarios and then sort of align those scenarios with the budget and how it would be impacted. It's always better, for us to say, if X happens, this is what we're going to do. And do it now, then when it happens and you're trying to, figure things out at that point in time. So, I've been involved in forecast scenarios, and they're very valuable. You align 2 or 3 things that you feel might happen. So when that situation happens, you're not in an emergency mode. You're not in an urgency mode. You have had time to really look at that and say, what would we do, and what's the impact, and what are some of the adjustments that we'd have to make, from personnel to all these different avenues. So I just want to recommend that we look at some possibilities. I mean, the shutdown is one possibility. A second wave is a really high possibility. And that 2020 is pretty much going to be, what happened from March to December is going to be very similar. So you just want to encourage that we do begin to align some of our budget and strategies to potential challenges that we might have in the very near future.
Yes, sir. So we could have those projections ready. If the court would be interested in doing a special session to discuss those, both the financial projections as well as how this impacts us strategically, From an operational perspective, a lot of departments have had to refocus. I'll use IT as an example. It's one where we've all seen where we've had to redirect their attention from planned projects that were part of the strategic plan to deploying remote technology and helping us all work, and not just for those who are working remotely, even for those who are working on site, looking for ways that we can do things differently. So a special session would help us go through this and hear from the court as to what its priorities are as we head into this next year.
And Judge Commissioners will work closely with county administration and of course your county auditor's office, who has tasked with the responsibility of certifying of revenues and reserves, and work up a couple of forecast scenarios for reduction in the scope, the 50%, so to speak, full shutdowns, and with a staged scenario of what options are available for the court to take action on and consider deferrals or mid-year actions. Any other questions on the last few slides on projects or discussions or items that we've deferred and future recommendations? Overall, what I will tell the court is based on the current projections, the budget and the revenue, and what you'll see presented to you in the immediate future, the county will still remain in strong financial condition. As I mentioned, the projections are somewhat fluid. I don't anticipate a wide range of change in those revenues and reserves, but on the budget that we'll be filing with you here in the next week, is you still have the ability to balance the budget and preserve your reserves in that 9 and 10% range. Your overall goal from a policy perspective has been between 10 and 15, and right now it's between 9 and 10 based off the numbers we're seeing. So we're not far off of that. And again, that's subject to be revised in the next 30, 60 days and 90 days before we adopt the final budget. If there's no further questions or comments, Ms. Keller, are you ready for me to transition over to Human Resources?
Please, thank you.
All right, then I'm going to turn this presentation over to Ms. Carrillo.
Thank you, Wally. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Melissa Carrillo with Human Resources. As we continue on with preparing for budget presentations and budget hearings that are in less than a month for FY21, my team and I have compiled some information that we'd like to share with you just to keep you abreast on what's going on with compensation and program
Melissa?
updates. Yes, ma'am.
Melissa, I apologize. We're having some technical issues. Miguel, the court is telling me they cannot see us or hear us.
Stand by.
Stand by.
Ms. Keller, could you confirm if we had any pending budget discussion or questions before we can transition over to Human Resources?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's because I talked about ITD.
Hi. It is like completely frozen. I'm gonna have to reboot. 1 second.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Miguel.
You're muted, Judge. You're muted. Oh, sorry. You're not muted. Stand by.
Judge, I apologize. We got disconnected. We did not hear whether you all had any feedback about the concept. Miguel, are we back on? Are we good?
Let me bring
Yeah,
in
no, just to
the
follow up
commissioners.
on that
Hang on.
special
Stand
session.
by.
Hang on.
We don't have a quorum.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you, Miguel. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
Judge, that was my fault.
I thought we'd all come back in. We were having a great discussion by ourselves, the three of us. Didn't re-
I thought,
mean,
man, they're
we were
being
that
very
connected.
quiet.
We're gonna just run off one meeting for now.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Miguel.
The timing was incredible about remote and IT, and then we could cut off.
That's what I said. I jinxed us.
Were you trying to make a point here?
Audio again?
Thank you all so much. I really apologize. I think.
Well, Betsy, okay, I'm just going to say, Betsy, that I love your suggestion. I think it's extremely important that we do meet and sort of regroup on the strategic plan and find time for that. I don't think anything is more important right now than to really understand. It's a little hard right now. I think if we could push it a little further, because I think we're in a very look and see kind of period in the pandemic. We're going up. Numbers are amazingly crazy for us, but I think it'll give us a little bit more of a sense as to, are we going to keep going up, or is there some kind of plateau? And I think people are saying it's in the next 2 weeks are going to be extremely telling as to what's going to happen to 2020. But I would love that session to take place as soon as you can.
Yes, sir.
Stand
We'll
by.
work with your offices.
Sorry, Betsy.
We'll work with all of your offices. I'm sorry, Miguel,
Stand by.
are you saying something?
Yes. Carlos Leon is not in. I guess he left, so we don't have quorum.
Here
No,
I am.
Smith?
I see him.
Sorry
He's
about that.
here,
Go
sir.
ahead. Sorry.
Okay,
No
thank
problem.
you. Okay,
So we'll work on a date with your offices to schedule that special session. What's important is we're delivering budget books to you all in approximately 1 week, a little over a week from now. And we won't have items in that book for the budget session and the budget hearings until we have that session. So we're going to have to be unusually flexible this year on our budget. We'll bring the budget and present, but we may need to set aside either some reserves if there's any special projects that the court believes, are very high priority. So just want to make you all aware of that.
thank you. Yeah, no, we are aware. And thank you for keeping us in that direction.
Yes, sir. Were there any questions for Wally? We got cut off. We don't know if there were any questions for Wally before we proceed with Melissa's presentation.
I've got one, Wally, if we can go back, way back to the graph that compares El Paso County to other counties in so much as property values.
What slide is that, Wally, if you don't mind? I've got it on the presentation.
I believe it's
Oh, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. Thank you.
about
Thank you.
slide.
Yeah, property value at market.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Wally, if you could just, I'm trying to locate it myself. What number is that?
I think it's like 10 or 11.
Number
Keep
11.
going. That's not it. Miguel. That one.
Number 11, page 11 on the.
I apologize. It was just brought to my attention. I was speaking to myself. I was muted. I was saying 11. So here's slide 11, Commissioner. Your question here.
Yes, I noticed El Paso towards the left of this graph, and what does that really tell us insofar as why our property taxes are the way they are as compared to the counties to the right?
So if you'll notice, sir, and that's a great question. As you see the three that are just to the left-hand side, Hidalgo, El Paso, and Fort Bend, you see a direct correlation with significantly lower property values as compared to the other urban counties, and the correlation to a higher property tax rate for the generation of revenue to deliver those sustainable services to our community. As you look at the right-hand side of that graph, you'll notice that the tax values are somewhat aligned, and you can pretty much draw a line with a gentle slope upward from Collin all the way to Harris. If you were to put a line right in the middle of that, their tax rates are more in alignment with their higher tax values. The lower tax value counties to the left, Hidalgo, El Paso, and Fort Bend, are the opposite end of the trend. Much lower property values result in, unfortunately, higher property taxes to deliver similar mandated services.
And Commissioner, if I may expand on that, this is one of the things Commissioner Pettis, well, during his time on CAD, has been discussing and addressing, and he reminds us of this frequently, that El Paso commercial property tax and residential, that, you know, we have appeals, and they're often basically they're often in the favor of the person appealing, yet, you know, it doesn't cost any less to deliver government services. For example, to hire a chief technology officer in El Paso, it's not significantly less than it is in Collin County or Bexar County, and yet our property values here continue to be significantly behind those other areas. Part of it's investment, but part of it's purely valuation.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think this is so important for our constituents to understand that if you look at Harris, Dallas, Travis, Tarrant, there's so much more commercial valuation mixed into this. And I don't know if it's ever been divided where we only see where we can compare really apples to apples in reference to just residential versus commercial. Is there a graph that depicts that, Wally?
Well, this one does to an extent, because you've got your three bar graphs, the three bars in each county. The far left bar is your residential. The white solid bar in the center of those three bar brackets are the commercial, and then all the blue one on the right is all other. But you can see proportionately, El Paso sits down there below 50%. But when you look at counties like Tarrant and Dallas, look at the center bar on Tarrant and County. In Tarrant, it's about 2/3 of their value comes from commercial. But on Dallas, closer to 80% of the residential value is commercial value. And Harris is over 50%. So El Paso falls below the El Paso, Denton, and Hidalgo. But El Paso falls proportionally lower along those comparisons.
That's been our disadvantage. I mean, we're typically what we say is 30-70, and then San Antonio seems to go down a little bit, but at one time they were 70-30, 70% commercial. And that makes such a big difference because you're getting your taxes from entities that are making money, whereas our property taxes, you know, it's not something that creates income for us. So, you know, that, and then the tax seems higher, and yet we're not being offset by the commercial component. So very, very challenging. And maybe that's why, you know, sometimes we don't understand economic development. You know, times where our community, you know, trying to bring companies in and increase the tax base. And, you know, that should be something that we highlight, as Commissioner Leon said, that the public understands, you know, why we make such an effort to bring companies in and expand them, and, you know, for them to be a big part of the of our tax rate. So this is a great graph, and Commissioner Leon, I'm glad you brought it back up, because I don't think we should have just let it sort of slide through like that, but highlight that huge significance. I mean, they're just it's a burden. I mean, to me, that shows the burden on our taxpayers.
And really the undervaluation of our residents as compared to other counties. So, no, I appreciate it, Wally, Judge, Commissioner, thank you. But this is an extremely telling graph.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And some of our largest dollar volume protest and cases and appeals filed are from commercial property holders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Thank you.
Any other
Are there
questions
any other
before I?
questions? Okay, Melissa?
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Just a second. Just a second. We lost quorum. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just turning on my fan, not to panic.
Yes, sir.
We're ready?
We're
Yes,
ready.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Melissa Carrillo with Human Resources. This morning, as we continue to prepare for budget hearings, which begin in less than a month, my team and I have prepared some information that we would like to share with you with regards to compensation and program updates. And to get us started, I have Natalia Chaparro from my team who will present on salary supplements and auto allowances for the county. Natalia?
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Natalia Chaparro with Human Resources. A pleasure to be here today. I will be sharing information on the salary supplements as well as the auto allowances. We have various supplements issued for positions that entail specialized assignments and distinct skills and expertise in accordance with our policy. So as you can see from the slide before you, there is no change in the amount of the salary supplements, staying budget neutral from this current year to our next year. During our review, we reached out to all the departments and they confirmed, all the departments receiving supplements, and they confirmed those salary supplements. Next slide, please. The next slide demonstrates the auto allowances for our current year and the next fiscal year, what we anticipate. As you can see, there is a decrease, a slight decrease, or savings about $709. Our recommendation is to continue to budget with the FY21 proposed amount in case the need arises. However, we do recognize that in light of the pandemic, our driving circumstances have changed, as approximately 40% of our workforce has switched to a telework capacity. Now, if the court is interested, you can direct us to bring back a policy on the auto allowances, which would incorporate options such as provisions to suspend or limit the use of a program when certain parameters are met, but we can definitely bring back options if that is the court's desire. If there are no questions or comments, Melissa.
Okay. Thank you, Natalia. Next slide, please. So the next portion of this presentation will include an update regarding programs. And as you can see on the slide before you, a year ago during budget hearings, the court invested in our van pool program via a subsidy. Our intent was to really reach at least 30 employees. We set aside $20,000, a little over $20,000 to achieve that. To date, we have had 0 participants. But if we go to the next slide, I'd like to show some of our marketing efforts. When we received the court's direction and we knew how important this was, not only for the employees and an opportunity to save, but also for our environment, we did various things and we created several flyer distributions. We, at open enrollment, educate every single employee about this program. Our intranet, which is our internal internet platform that communicates with employees, we placed videos on that. We put additional information, and we even invited our van pool staff to come and present at the health fairs to our employees. Unfortunately, we did not have any takers in fiscal year 20. And of course, with the pandemic hitting so early on this calendar year, we do not know the impact of how this program would work in FY21. I do want to let you know that our contacts at Vanpool have reached out and assured us they continue to operate, they continue to provide services to essential workers, and they are taking every precautionary measure to sanitize their vehicles. This is one area where, of course, if the court wants to continue funding this program and see if there are any changes in FY21, we'd be happy to continue those efforts. Of course, if there's an area to suspend this program, the court may also direct us to do that. Next slide, please. The next program update is with regards to your educational assistance program. You will see various information on the slide before you, and it starts with the number of applications for reimbursement, talks about the actual number of reimbursements, and then the total number of employees who've received reimbursements throughout the past few years. The big difference between the number of applications and the actual number of reimbursements, the first two charts, is based on our vetting process in accordance with the policy to ensure qualifications are met before those reimbursements are issued. Not all reimbursements qualify. And then that last chart, total number of employees who received reimbursement, on average, the county reimburses about 30 employees for their pursuance of higher education. Next slide, please. This slide now talks about the actual dollar figures. You will see the court's investment in this program over the past few years. While we maintained steady at $50,000, almost 100% of that was utilized. And so for this particular year, we increased it in our FY20 budget to $75,000. You'll see that we are trending lower than normal. Again, the pandemic may have had an effect, it may not have, but we are trending lower. When we analyze what we want to do for FY21, your budget team has already reduced this program by $15,000. And based on our current usage, we don't anticipate that reduction will affect the program at all. Next slide, please. So this next two slides, I'd like to share just an update regarding the animal welfare conversion program that happened. As you recall, in last year's budget session, the court transitioned the animal welfare division to a standalone department. And just a few months ago, we hired our animal welfare director, Ms. Lorelei Combs. Ms. Combs is on the call with us today in the event the court has further operational questions. But these two slides basically just represent service calls. You'll see that from January through March, the service calls at the bottom line, the totals are quite higher than what they've been in this last 3 months. The pandemic has definitely had an impact on these numbers. But regardless, if you actually look at the same time period this year versus last year, we actually are trending higher in terms of service calls for the same period compared year to year. Next slide, please. I'd like to share some accomplishments with you, and I do have Ms. Combs on the line. And so, Ms. Combs, if you'd like to go over these as the director of your department.
Certainly, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'd just like to say our team of 8 have been very busy and supporting our community. We have partnered with the city animal services, and that picture that you're seeing right there is actually a line of thousands of people that wanted to have their pets vaccinated. It was a free wellness clinic. We handed out food and vaccines. We vaccinated over 900 pets. We gave food away. We met our community. And that just shows you the compassion and love that our community has for their pets. So we will continue to support our community by also giving out resources to those who need it most, who have maybe had their income compromised due to COVID. We're out in the community giving food, resources, materials, vaccinations, whatever they need to keep their pets at home. We want families to stay together, and many people now feel that their pets are family. They want to keep their family together. So we're there to support them. But on the other hand, you also see that our cruelty citations have been going up. We're tough on cruelty. We're so fortunate to have a sheriff's department that supports that. And we'll continue on that path to be tough on cruelty, but yet be very compassionate and supportive to our county citizens. that need help with and support with their pets. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you, Lorelei.
You're welcome.
Judge, commissioners, any questions before Melissa continues?
Judge, I think you're muted.
Judge.
Yeah, just wanted to thank Lorelei on her commitment and dedication and everything that we've seen in a short period of time, and the relationship, taking advantage of the resources with the city and that relationship. And it's a great program. I think it was very, very timely. The impact of, of what's going on with the virus and what we had to deal with sort of came together. And so the timing was excellent for you to be on board. So welcome once again, and also, good luck on moving forward with these challenges.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Okay, so the last program update that I have for you all this morning, next slide please, is with regards to our 48-hour bond update. As the court recalls, last year you all received a presentation from several different departments relating to personnel needs that were going to be utilized as part of the 48-hour bond conversion that resulted from the O'Donnell versus Harris case. On the screen today, this is a reminder of what the court ended up approving. You'll see various positions were approved, but several pools were created. And this was something we worked together and we went out on a limb and tried to do something a little more unique and different. There were several pools created for several of the departments to allow overtime for existing employees that could come in on weekends and cover those weekend bond hearings. Next slide, please. This slide indicates the actual usage since the program started on April 1st. This is the pool usage and where those funds are going. Now, if you look and you try to analyze, well, what does any of this mean? When we projected what the total pool cost would be, which comes out to about a little over $310,000 a year, if you look at a 3-month period, ideally we were expecting to spend about $78,000 in a 3-month period. In this 3-month period, we've only spent about $41,000. Now, definitely has the pandemic and our jail population had an impact? Absolutely. So these aren't really good numbers to say, great, we're probably going to save quite a bit going forward. I think we could, and I think the teams are doing a really good job being innovative, being efficient, and trying to figure out this coverage with the staff and the investment the court has made. But I wanted to let you know so far what that looked like. As Wally mentioned earlier, we've already budgeted full amounts for FY21, but we'll continue to watch these trends and make sure that we have sufficient funding for the program. And the next slide, please. Thank you. So this final slide just shows the breakdowns and the types of positions that are currently committed to your bond hearings and what are dedicated based on hours and wages. But I do have Judge Hamilton on the line in the event the court has additional operational questions since the program has commenced. I do believe it's going quite well, but I'd love for Judge Hamilton to approach the court and of course answer any questions you all might have.
Excellent. Judge Hamilton, it'd be great for you to give us a little overview, and I know some great things are happening there, and thank you for all you do. So if you don't mind giving us a little overview of your situation.
My pleasure, Judge. Thank you so much. Good morning, Commissioners. Pleasure to be here. What I can tell you is the challenge of starting this program in the midst of a pandemic was pretty unusual and unique because not only did we start this brand new program 7 days a week, but then we had to figure out a way to make our hearings virtual. That was quite a challenge, but we have overcome both of those things. I will say that with the equipment that we already had in the jail magistrate court, we were able to create virtual bond hearings with no additional cost whatsoever to the county because of the equipment that we had purchased a few years ago. Just to give you a general idea, I did some statistics and some numbers. For example, a number of bond hearings and compared it to the same time frame in 2019. In 2019, from April through June, we did a total of 606 bond hearings. That was when we were only going 5 days a week. That jumped up to 1,115 bond hearings this April through June. And so we've seen almost a doubling of the amount of bond hearings that we are doing at this point, which shows us we are capturing all of these individuals who have been put into the county jail, been unable to afford the bond, getting a bond hearing very quickly, taking into consideration their financial situation, and moving these cases along. So our numbers are quite significant, I think. We have also, just to give you an idea, when we were doing April through June magistrate warnings, just those 3 months in 2019, we did 6,345 magistrate warnings. That this year, this calendar year, we're up to 5,522 for that same time frame. So even though we've seen a decrease somewhat because of the pandemic, it's not decreased as much as I would like it to be. I wish that we didn't have as many people coming into the jail, but that's just kind of an overview to get you an idea of what we're looking at. And if you have any questions, I'll be so happy to answer them.
Thank you, Judge Hamilton. And, I think it's obvious that that situation is aligned with our basic concept. No one should be 1 minute more in jail than they should, and they should not be there because of lack of money. And so having that, moving this forward is very valuable as far as the criminal justice concepts that we're trying to create. So thank you very much. I know it hasn't been easy, the virtual and the new changes, but thank you for all your work.
My pleasure, Judge.
Thank you. Melissa?
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. So that concludes the program updates. Each year we want to bring back the information based on whatever program changes were done in the prior fiscal year, just to ensure the court's kept fully abreast of what's going on. And so I want to thank Judge Hamilton for taking time to be on this call, and of course, Ms. Lorelei Holmes as well. Unless the judge and the the commissioners have any other questions, that concludes our presentation this morning.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Thank you for keeping an eye out on our personnel and everything that needs to happen under these conditions. And besides what you presented, just that contact that we encourage that our employees feel that even if they're not, working, from the workplace, but that they're still part of this. So all the things that we have to do. And I get a lot of compliments of the productivity and the things that are happening. And so thank you for taking care of that component that is so critical for success. Thank you, Melissa.
Absolutely, of course. Thank you.
Judge, Commissioners, if there's no more questions, this concludes this agenda item.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you, sir.
Jessica?
Thank you.
Natalia.
Okay, item number 5, discuss and take appropriate action regarding the proposed FY 2021 El Paso County Mobility Plan budget.
Mr. Landeros.
Jose, I think you're silent still.
Yeah, sorry. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Jose Landeros with the Planning and Development Department. This morning, we'll be discussing the budget requests that our department submitted for FY21. This was a presentation that was developed in coordination and at the request of our budget officer, Mr. Wally Hargrove, just to ensure that the court was aware of what was being asked and to gain some direction for programming purposes in FY21, what direction the court would like to go. So specifically, the county over the past 7 years has really expanded its role in county transportation solutions. Beginning in 2013, the County Comprehensive Mobility Plan was adopted in partnership with TxDOT El Paso, and a number of municipalities in the area, as well as the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. And that partnership with the RMA has been really pivotal because it allowed for the county to collect an optional $10 vehicle registration fee and leverage that into bond sales that allowed us to execute over $100 million worth of transportation projects using nothing but local dollars. And that is the result of a decision made by the Commissioners Court of that time to raise the fee, a good partnership with the RMA. And the products that we're seeing come out of this are, the East Lake Widening Project, which to date is the county's largest roadway project that will be soon surpassed by the Pelicano project, who was about $1.5 million more in cost than East Lake. And so you can see the quality of road projects that the county has engaged in are really meeting the regional needs of the community. To complement that, in 2015, the Commissioners Court established a specific budget line item in the general fund that is called the El Paso County Mobility Plan, or the EPCMP. This local fund is developed to ensure that our staff has access to funds for project planning, engineering services, to complement some of the federal dollars of projects, to complement projects that have federal dollars secured to them. It also allows us to acquire land as necessary, right, for right-of-way. It allows us to work with utility companies to make any adjustments to lines that are currently in the road. A good example of this is along Pelicano. There were a number of utility companies that we had to coordinate with to ensure that their facilities were relocated out of where they were to the new location to ensure that we could construct the road, following the design that was ultimately approved by the FHWA and by TxDOT. We've also engaged in a number of transportation-related studies. The development of the Comprehensive Mobility Plan came out of the EPCMP line item. The development of the Fabens Airport Zoning Protection Plan that's currently underway also was funded using 100% local dollars. And in addition, in the past, the State Infrastructure Bank loan repayment that we have was also coming out of this line item. It's my understanding that is proposed to be ended in 21 and phased into your INS tax rate. But this line item really in sum was a way for the county to display that it had a commitment to transportation, and that commitment has allowed us to really leverage these local dollars for federal dollars at the MPO, because it's that anecdotal skin in the game that we can as a county demonstrate. And so in 21, the focus of our request is really some routine items, but a bulk of those are related to the development of shovel-ready initiatives, and especially in anticipation of a federal infrastructure bill being made available in the near future. We want to make sure that we have projects underway and under design that would be good candidates for that potential pot of funding. Next slide. And just to give you an idea of where we are in fiscal year 20, what we've been able to accomplish, and what we are, and then the next slide after that will be telling you a little bit about what we'll be doing. We have John Hayes, which is a design underway, which is a project in East El Paso County. There was a local contribution because of the funding source that we received at the MPO wasn't 100%, so we did have to put some money into it from our own general fund. That is currently underway. We were able to contribute to the transit fleet upgrade. We are working on making our fleet 100% CNG, and we were short about $80,000, and so we budgeted for that, and we were able again to leverage that $80,000 with money from the state to purchase 7 brand new CNG buses. We also have engaged with the Texas A&M Transportation Institute to develop a few studies that have allowed us to continue to receive funding for Route 50 from the MPO. But also, Mr. Hargrove mentioned in his presentation the fact that our regional transit expansion was previously budgeted at $2 million in 20, but it's been reduced to $800,000. That's because there were funds made available at the El Paso MPO to provide 3 years of operating startup assistance to the county for that program. But to receive those funds, we did have to engage with TTI on a few studies that would allow us to tap into that specific pot of money. And so this partnership, again, with the county's general funds being available for these types of studies, allowed us to turn that small investment into, $2 million of operating assistance per year for the next 3 years. And that's federal and state dollars coming down to the county from the MPO. So you can see that we've really leveraged those local dollars as effectively as we can to build these partnerships on a regional and state level with these funding agencies to allow us to take the local investment and really do a whole lot more with it. Next slide, please. This is the breakdown of what is being requested in FY21. You can see that one of the programs that is the funding at the MPO is running out, and will run out in fiscal year 21, is the VAMPO program. It's been a very highly successful program that's been, that was at one point under significant scrutiny from the state because of the way that it was being handled and some of the issues that it was facing. When that responsibility was assigned when that responsibility was assigned to county administration, they took it, they put in place a lot of the foundation that we built on, and then it was handed over to Public Works a few years ago, and we've really taken it and ramped it up. And it's become a model, and TxDOT has actually performed an audit because they felt that the numbers were too good. And when they did that audit, they actually came back and said that, no, the numbers were confirmed. We do have a very high ridership, high utilization, low overhead and administrative costs, which makes it an ideal model for other agencies who are looking to develop a VAMPO program to follow. That being said, the funding, that operating assistance that we have for this program is about to run out. And at this point, there's really no funding at the MPO available for that we see at this time. So the request would be to allow the county to appropriate about $500,000 to continue that program for the next year. And that is what that line item is specifically for. Rojas Widening is the second one. This is a line item that we are asking to, a project, in the budget line item that we're asking to defer to 21. This is a project where the developer is actually donating all the land and the design for the roadway, and this is in the East Lake and Rojas area. So there's a lot of important development that's occurring in that area, as the court is well aware. And this is a project that will help us to ensure that we meet the growing demand for not only residential development, but also some of this commercial, industrial, and manufacturing operations that are opening up shop in that East Lake Rojas area. The TTI studies, again, you can see that we requested about $125,000. We can reduce that to about $75,000. We do like to keep this funding available for any initiative that may present itself, and a good example is the funding that we were able to secure at the MPO because we had money available to conduct a study to justify the use of a particular type of MPO funding. That study is critical and a requirement to secure some funding at the MPO. And if we lose that ability in the event that money falls out of the sky, we wouldn't have the flexibility to be able to get that going. So that is what that line item is specifically for. Route 84 is a part of our county transit system. It is a route that is operated by Sun Metro that serves the Mission Valley, Clint, San Elizario, and Socorro area. And we have an agreement with Sun Metro whereby we pay them and they operate the system, right? This is outside of Sun Metro service area, but it's a critical service line for residents in that community. In the past, we had purchased buses for Sun Metro in exchange for service, and we would use funding at the MPO to do that. That practice of transferring MPO dollars to transit has received a lot of scrutiny and at the MPO over the past few years. And as a result of that, and just a general lack of funding for a number of related initiatives, that funding opportunity at the MPO has really diminished for this type of service. So at this point, this is a project and a line item that we have in the budget this year that we'd like to continue next year. Any interruption in funding in that might end up reducing that Route 84 service line. Next, John Hayes Construction, Engineering, and Inspection. This is an item that is related to when the John Hayes Construction project actually gets going and underway. We do need this construction, engineering, and inspection, which are the responsibilities that we have to make sure that our engineers, our design consultant engineers are on staff, that we have the ability to do on-call survey work for the road once it's actually under construction. And so we're requesting that be made available in 21. The road design for Tierra del Este was something we had originally requested in the amount of 3.6 million, but we were able to identify program savings in the VRF to actually fund that and get the design going now. The Tierra del Este roadway is a good example of a shovel-ready project that we were able to find some money at the RMAs, with the RMA, to get that going instead of having the court fund it using general fund dollars. So that's been zeroed out, and we've shared all this. We've shared this revised request with budget. So this is the number that they're looking at. And last, the two shovel-ready projects that we would like to get going, and is really contributing to the significant increase in our budget, is both the Wrestler Extension roadway design, which would provide connectivity between Westway and the city of El Paso, and that would follow the existing alignment of Wrestler and take it north all the way to Westway. It's a critical relief route for Interstate 10. If there's ever an incident in that area, residents could use this as a way, another option to get from A to B if there's something along I-10. And the second design that we'd like to get going on is the Bob Hope roadway design. The Socorro Independent School District is working on plans to construct a second athletic facility complex at behind the existing SAC, right there at the intersection of Loop 375 and Bob Hope in East El Paso. This roadway would extend Bob Hope from Loop 375 all the way to Mission Ridge Boulevard. It's a critical outlet for traffic in the area. There's a lot of topographical concerns because of just how the area looks in terms of hills and sandiness, and there's some flood streams that cross through the area. So we do anticipate design taking some time and being a little bit more complicated for both of these projects, because the Wrestler Extension similarly is on the foothills of the Franklins, and we'll be crossing a few identified floodplains. So the design of these roadway projects is not as straightforward as some of the other ones, which is one of the reasons why we definitely would like to get started on these sooner, so that in the event funding becomes available from the federal government through a stimulus package, we have that funding. We have these projects under design today. So that really is one of the big reasons. That's $5 million alone, and that's a significant increase from what our budget currently is. If you remove those budget requests, it doesn't. The funding is actually relatively stable and relatively level. We're not doing anything more or anything less than we have in the past. It's that the increase is attributable to those two roadway design projects that we would like to get started. And you can see that that's reflected on that last cell on the table. The budget request with no shovel-ready initiative is relatively low, because we are requesting our unspent funds from FY20 to be carried forward to bring down that balance. And so our net request in 21 is about $8 million, and then you can see it comes down to about $3 million without the shovel-ready projects. Next slide.
Real quick, Jose, before you go on with that, the shovel-ready project is something Commissioners Court has asked for in the past when funding has been made available and we don't have a project immediately to submit. So this is something Public Works has been working on enhancing based on your past request.
Right, that is correct. Yeah, that was the reason why we submitted this. And it was a conversation that we had with the chief administrator, with the budget director. We did ask, are we out of line in submitting this type of request, knowing that we are, facing a budget uncertainty? But because of the timing of potential stimulus dollars coming down from the federal government, added with the court's direction to have projects on the shelf ready to go, we felt the request was in line and something that the court could get consideration to during the development of the 21 budget. So to provide some context on the timeline for what these, if the funding became available for these, what we would look at, obviously October 20, the budget for 21 goes live. We would, if the court decides to include these, begin working with the RMA to develop an interlocal agreement so that as soon as funding became available, we could start very early and have this design going sooner rather than later, coordinate with the consultant and get everything really going by the start of the second quarter of fiscal year 20. Obviously, we would work as diligently as we could to accelerate this timeline as much as possible, but I think this is just some realistic goals for us to have. If we have the ability to commence design in January of 21, we give us about anywhere from 15 to 18 months to complete construction. And again, this is subject to change. And what's important to know is that because of the floodplains that are identified through some of these roadway projects, this design may take longer than we're anticipating because we will have to coordinate with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, on crossing these floodplains to ensure that we're not disturbing the identified flood path and that we're actually not making any stormwater hazard worse downstream, right? We want to make sure that we're mitigating that and not contributing to the problem. So that may add some time to that process as well. But we feel comfortable with these dates at this point. And in the event that there was an update, once we actually started the design, we'll make sure to make the court aware of that. But we really can't know the full scope of what those additional reviews and delays may look like until we actually get started with the design at this point. Next slide. And then for land, I mentioned that there's a lot of engineering services that we use, but then there's also right-of-way acquisition. That's the second component of the EPCMP line item. In FY20, there was about $1 million set aside for acquisition along Pelicano. Those contracts are with the county attorney's office right now, and we are waiting to have those approved so that we can begin to take down the land. Construction has commenced on this project, but we do have the parcels of land that are still pending the final approval for the contract. Everything has already gone through the process. At this point, it's just really about cutting the check and getting that over to them and exchanging the land. So we do have that. So that $1 million will be spent down relatively quickly in the next few weeks. If in the event that there's anything left in that account, we would request that balance carry forward to 21 because we do have right-of-way that needs to be acquired for the Darrington roadway project, which won't begin until FY21. I would say about the spring or summer of FY21. That construction project is funded using local VRF dollars at the RMA. So we do have some flexibility on when that project starts, but we still have some right-of-way acquisition that's outstanding on that project. And similarly, we would like to get started on acquiring the necessary right-of-way for John Hayes, which is the 3-mile stretch of road that will go from Pelicano to Mountwood and is the extension of Darrington. So Darrington and John Hayes on a map are the same alignment. They just change names at the Pelicano intersection. But because John Hayes does have federal dollars attached to it, we do have to follow the uniform process. We have to notify the landowner of their rights and have there's a more formal process to take down that land. And so that typically adds some cost. It increases the cost of acquiring that property. But we would like to make sure that we get started on that sooner rather than later, because we do have funding to begin construction on John Hayes in FY22 at the MPO. Next slide. That is, in summary, the request that we've made for FY21, and available to answer any questions that the court may have about those initiatives or what we might be able to do to accomplish the court's goals moving forward at this point.
Judge, I've got.
You did, Judge?
Was that?
Go ahead, Commissioner Leon, please.
Jose, just one quick question, and by the way, excellent presentation. On the connector between Pelicano and I think it was Vista del Sol, where are we with that?
The relief route that the court approved a few months ago?
Yes.
Yes, sir. No, that opened up a few months back, I think back in May. It was a very quick turnaround, and we did include that in the highlights with photos of when it was opened. But if you've not had a chance to go out and take a look at it, it's a well-constructed roadway that is actually used pretty frequently at all times through the day. We've been there in the morning, we've been there midday, in the afternoon, never at night, but it is a critical relief route that if and when schools open back up in the fall, I think will help to mitigate a lot of the traffic concern along Pelicano because of that morning peak and afternoon peak traffic times.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jose, if you can send the court, again, well, at least me, I don't remember seeing it.
Sure, yes, sir. Yeah, we'll make sure to take some photos and show you some traffic on there, see if we can get some more recent photos for the court and for yourself. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Jose, just want to highlight how important, as you know, from very beginning, infrastructure was something that was extremely important, that we wanted to make sure that given all the challenges with COVID-19, but that infrastructure continued, that we would come out of this without being, it was identified as one of the most critical situations, that if we came out of the COVID-19 and our infrastructure was lacking, then we really couldn't allow the economy to take off in the right direction. So I thank you for keeping that, that focus on the infrastructure, keeping things moving forward wherever we can. Gives you a little bit more flexibility as far as other departments where you've got, people can be, distance from each other. You could, you have some opportunities for social distance and continuing to work. But I want to thank you because, I get so many compliments about Public Works, what you're doing, things that are keep moving. It just feels really good to be out there and talk to people about how they see, what you're doing, the relationship, the quick response to information. I've had meetings with developers and they always compliment, how we're available. And so I want to thank you openly because it is such an important element to be able to know that infrastructure didn't stay as far as behind as some others. And like I said, it'll be the foundation moving forward. So just want to thank you. Your relationship with MPO, sort of that liaison that we have, RMA, just very valuable to us as a county to know where things are moving and that we don't stay behind and that we get our fair share, of everything that happens in these RMA and MPOs and anything transportation related. So I want to thank you and your team and Public Works for that great work. Thank you, Jose.
No, thank you, Judge. And we're always very quick to recognize that none of this would be possible without the leadership and support from the Commissioner's Court in making these resources available. We presented to the ACEC, which is the large engineering companies, just yesterday afternoon, and we made them aware of all the things that were going on with the county, and all of that couldn't be possible without the tough decisions that the Commissioner's Court has to make to allocate and appropriate the resources. So very thankful for your leadership on the court and also for the continued support of our Chief Administrator, Mrs. Keller, and our Executive Director, Mrs. Palacios. So very lucky to be here at the county and doing a lot of these transformative projects.
Thank you. Transformative is the perfect word. Thank you.
Judge, if I could, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Stout.
Thank you, Jose, for the presentation. So I was kind of wondering. So, y'all are talking about possible stimulus funding, and I just was wondering, where the idea that there might be stimulus funding is coming from. I mean, what is being expected, and what sort of intelligence are you all, do y'all have when it comes to any possible stimulus dollars that are going to be coming for infrastructure and transportation infrastructure projects as a result of COVID.
Right. Yes, sir. So a lot of the information that we've seen has come from, well, there's been a number of sources actually. So it hasn't been just one single fountain of information, but we've received notice through the ACEC, right, the American Civil Engineering Companies, that they are preparing, and they have in conversations with members of Congress that they've had. There's bills being prepared, and there was and the legislation name escapes me, but it recently passed the House, sitting on the Senate side, nothing really moving on that. So there is some gridlock, I think, right now, especially leading up to the election, before anything moves out. But there's legislation that's been filed. There are public works lobbyist groups that have sent circulars of information out that we received. We received information from Mrs. Keller's office about that as well. And at the MPO, there's been just a general conversation. So there's not been one single piece of legislation that I think we could identify to say this is the ticket that we would have access to a number of these roadway projects. But I think the general sentiment is, given the recession that the country is experiencing, that there will be some solution, right? And in terms of the election and the outcome of that, I think both presidential candidates have, the president has announced, a request for a $2 trillion infrastructure bill. I think at this point it's just about getting the Congress and the parties together to figure out what that is. And that atmosphere, I think, is what existed back in 2007 and 2008 during the financial downturn that we experienced then. And so really recognizing the same pattern of events, we're trying to be ahead of the curve and provide for these shovel-ready projects in the event that funding became available. And if not, the traditional funding sources at the MPO remain. And if we follow the federal process, our projects would still be eligible to potentially be accelerated to an earlier date if funding became available at the MPO, which it has. Like the Pelicano project is a good example, where we had $10 million initially at the MPO, and that amount increased all the way up to $28 million because of funding that had gone unutilized and was increased and actually added on to that project. So there's always an opportunity for the funding to go to that project in the end.
Thank you. Can you? I don't know if the rest of the members of the court want this, but is there a way that you can provide any, I guess, articles or just information on and just to kind of keep us abreast of those pieces of legislation that you're talking about? I'd like to look into that a little more myself. And then I also had a question on the design for the Bob Hope extension. Mm-hmm. I think that looking at the, in our June 22nd meeting, we approved a list of projects to be included in the 2050 MPO plan, and the design for the Bob Hope extension was included in that, I believe, but as a project in 2022. So we're moving the design for this up because we're hoping for the stimulus dollars.
Right. Yes, sir. So what we did is we submitted our wish list, right, to the MPO, and what ends up making it into the MPO plan, is yet to be seen. We've been asked to prioritize our 21 projects, and so I think the way that we're going to go about that is we're going to recommend prioritizing construction over design, because construction are such high ticket dollar projects that it's easier for the court to fund the design than it is to fund the full construction, or maybe even if it's half the construction, you have to make that difference up. So that being said, I think that the chances of securing some design funding may be strained at the MPO, or they may be relatively low. So we may be looking at this, but yes, we would be looking at accelerating that by a year to ensure that if funding became available, let's say that the new Congress and the president at the beginning of 21, this is the first order of business they take up. They're able to pass something in the first few months, similar to the timeline that we saw in 2009, that funding would really trickle down by the end of 21 and would start to be programmed at the MPOs. And so ultimately we would have projects that were at least 60 or between 60 and 90% design, which would make them good candidates for that funding. So that's the benefit of accelerating that, is that we may incur some costs today to try and secure some funds tomorrow. But yes, you're correct that the project was submitted, but we haven't heard back. And that process of finding out if the MPO would fund that design project is going to take us about 6 to 9 months before we know definitively one way or the other.
Okay, and then also the estimated design was listed at costing 2.5 million, with the county paying 500K, and then the federal match being at 2 million. But now we're looking at, I guess, funding a whole $2 million.
Right, and so one of the reasons why the design was higher at that point is because we, at the MPO, the projects, they have to be, you have to account for how far out those projects are going to be, and the design is typically estimated based on the value of construction. So because the construction was so far out, the percentage of the design that we estimate at is higher as well. Right, okay. And so that's one of the reasons why there's a disparity between the amount. But we feel confident that if we could get started on it today, we could get that design done for about $2 million, and then we would see a lower construction cost, in 22 or 23 than we would if it was originally in the outer year that we had initially submitted to the MPO. Okay, then thanks for that explanation. On the wrestler extension, I also noticed that it was not listed in the 2050 MPO plan that we presented or that we voted on, and so I was just wondering why if it wasn't given sufficient priority to be on our 2050 plan list, why are we giving it priority now? No, and it wasn't. I think I realized that as I was presenting it this morning that I think we renamed it or relabeled it in the MPO plan. It's the Northwestern Tom Mays extension. Okay. Right, but everyone calls it the wrestler extension, and I think, to be honest, I've been stubborn in trying to give in to just calling it that, because it's technically not when you look at the alignment, but it's the same roadway project that would. Yeah. Okay. So I saw the Tom Mays Northwestern extension there, and okay, so it's the same project. Okay. Yes, sir. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate the answers.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Well, Seth, thank you for your presentation. Great job.
Great. No, thank you, Judge, Commissioners. If there's any other questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. Commissioner Leon will work on sending an update on all the on the construction of that relief route, so that the court can see that roadway in action. And if there's anything else you all need, please don't hesitate to let us know. And again, thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6. Receive a presentation from Workforce Solutions Borderplex regarding current initiatives to help businesses upskill and improve technology.
Sorry, good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Eric Rosales, Assistant County Attorney. Excuse me, Jessica. Just before we move on to item number 6, I just want to note for the record that there's no action for item number 5 and also no action for the previous item number 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Andrea Hutchins with the Economic Development Department. I am pleased to have with us this morning Layla Melendez and Andrew Ames with Workforce Solutions Borderplex. Members of the court are likely aware that some of the great initiatives that Workforce Borderplex Solutions, has been involved in COVID-19 response. Man, that's a hard name to say. I don't know how you say it all the time, Layla. This newest initiative is relatively unique, and so we wanted to reach out to the court and make sure that you all were not only aware of this program, but also so that the public could potentially become aware of this program and take advantage. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn things over to Layla and Andrew.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yes, okay, good. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Judge and commissioners and Ms. Keller and Ms. Hutchins, thank you all for asking us to speak to you about this program that we are so really excited about. As we've been navigating through the pandemic and trying to be strategic in how to recover our economy, we came across an opportunity with Microsoft, and they provided us with some funding, and we have since been able to expand a little bit of that funding and develop this really great program where we think is going to help a lot of our local small businesses and also really help them train some of their internal workforce. So we were really fortunate to have found Andrew Ames, who is here in El Paso only for a few weeks during the summer. But when we spoke with him and we explained to him the idea that we had, he caught it and he made it grow into this huge wildfire that we are really proud and eager to get off the ground. And so I'm going to hand it over to him, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about our program. And so internally, we've been talking about it as our digital transformation program, where we have had no choice but we were thrusted into this virtual world. Everybody's working from home, doing as much business virtually and on the web, and some of us have the fortune of knowing and navigating that world, but others don't. And some of our small businesses especially may know that that's a realm that they need to enter, but may not know how or have the resources to do that. And so this program is going to help those small businesses with doing that. And in the process, helping them and their employees upskill and learn how to be competitive in this new virtual world. So I'm going to introduce Andrew, and then he's going to run through a few slides about how this program will work. And we're really eager to hear feedback and questions from you all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Layla. And good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Thank you all for including me on today's agenda. My name, as Layla said, is Andrew Ames. I'm here on behalf of Workforce Solutions Borderplex, and I couldn't be more excited to give you an update on the Borderplex Digital Pathway Program. As Layla mentioned, this is an initiative funded in part by Microsoft and the City of El Paso, and it's all about ensuring our local businesses are able to leverage technology resources to improve their operations and come out of what has been an exceptionally challenging few months due to COVID, stronger and more competitive than ever. Let's start with just a quick overview of what we'll be discussing today. I will spend a few moments walking you through the technology skill gap that is currently faced by our local businesses here in El Paso and how the Borderplex Digital Pathways program is going to address this gap. We'll then jump into some specifics about the timeline, the program structure, our extensive partner network, which I'm particularly proud of. We'll then transition into a challenge that we've identified outside of our program and how we're hoping to address it, and then conclude with some key takeaways and open the presentation up for questions and comments. But of course, if anything strikes out to you on any of the slides, feel free to jump in whenever. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So we at Workforce Solutions conduct ongoing business intelligence, and what we found is that now more than ever, businesses are saying that they need digital knowledge and skills to succeed. So earlier this year, we came across a startling statistic. So 70% of small businesses reported that they will be unable to rebound, partially due to lack of computer or digital knowledge. A more recent ongoing survey of local businesses found that a strong majority, so 63%, believe that they need technology, that they need to leverage technology to grow. Yet, despite this recognition, of our survey respondents, 58% had no digital presence whatsoever. So to me, this is a very clear indicator that local businesses don't have the tools right now that they need to successfully navigate the new digital world. And this in turn is putting their businesses at risk. So if we can go to the next slide. Great. So fortunately, the Borderplex Digital Pathways program will enable at least 100 local businesses to better understand, utilize, and transition to digital resources in order to stay competitive in today's challenging business environment. So what does that actually mean? I know digital gets thrown out quite a bit. So what it means is if a restaurant's currently struggling with customer acquisition, we'll train that restaurant on how to successfully do digital marketing. If a local retailer has decreased sales because customers might be a bit hesitant to visit their physical storefront, we'll teach that retailer how to set up an e-commerce website. So our program merely translates that underlying business need in our community into a digital solution. And the services that we're providing are completely free for businesses. Next slide. So we know that businesses are struggling now and that we need to act fast. So we are currently staffing up so we can begin assisting businesses in August. Our program will run through the end of 2020 into 2021 for a total of 12 months. So we're really excited to be able to have a prolonged impact on our community's business. Next slide, please. So how does this actually work in practice? I can give you all a quick high-level overview of the program structure. So through our marketing, the confirmed partners that we'll discuss a bit later, we're promoting our program across all sectors of business. So from restaurant and retailers to contractors and pet grooming businesses. There's no restrictions in the type of businesses that we can support. We'll then direct these businesses to schedule an initial appointment with our 5 digital transformation specialists through our sign-up page, which is going to live on the Workforce Solutions Borderplex website. The businesses will input some general information about themselves, go through a quick intake survey, and then from there, our digital transformation specialists can help them identify the exact business needs that can be addressed through our program. Next slide. So these 5 digital transformation specialists, they're really at the heart of the program. So they are digital experts that are going to work with our local businesses on a one-on-one basis to help them come up with a plan that's actionable. So they're going to do what we call business to technology translation. So converting a business problem like we need more sales into a digital solution, such as digital marketing. They're going to be prepared with case studies to share with local businesses so that the business understands what success might look like. Preferred vendors when needed. So if a business needs to know how to execute on a particular recommendation, we'll certainly provide them with those resources. But I think most importantly, which Leila was talking about in the intro, is that our digital transformation specialists will curate and share the upskilling resources that are actually necessary to make these digital transformations. So whether it is free access to webinars or on-demand digital learning modules, such as LinkedIn Learning and other online learning platforms, the digital transformation specialist is going to be that coach for the local business to teach them the digital skills that they need to succeed. And should a business falter in their implementation, we have a support system built in through our help desk. So the DTS will provide all the necessary handholding to make sure businesses are supported and are able to rapidly upskill. So we certainly want to make sure that adoption takes place and fully recognize that just handing a piece of paper off to a business isn't going to be sufficient. There needs to be that one-on-one interaction, and there needs to be that upskilling. Next slide. Great. So we're really proud of the leadership role that we've taken on with this initiative, and we're leveraging our exceptional partnerships with local organizations to both expand our reach and ensure that businesses receive all the support they need, whether it's a technology issue or whether it's something else. So we're working directly with the Chamber of Commerce, we're working with Hispanic Chamber, Lift Fund, Fab Lab, the Better Business Bureau, all of which are going to help feed us business intelligence. So identifying what those business problems are and actual leads for businesses that need our help. Specific to Fab Lab and the Better Business Bureau, they're also going to be providing us with access to training resources to help prepare our DTSs for success in the field, and also to make additional training resources available to businesses themselves that need upskilling in particular areas. So whether it's managing a social channel or how to do basic website management. Additionally, some other support is being coordinated through our partners as well. So, in the event a business engages with the DTS and they have a non-digital issue, we'll be able to direct them either to the Chamber or the Small Business Development Center for advisory service. And, should a business actually need an e-commerce site but might not necessarily have the funds to execute that, we're also working with the Better Business Bureau, which has a grant to develop some free websites So again, just ensuring that the business can see through the digital transformation. We want to make sure that no one falls between the cracks. So it certainly takes a whole community to address this fundamental threat to our local businesses right now with COVID. And with Workforce as the lead, we're working together with our partners to make sure that these businesses are able to adapt and are able to succeed moving into the future. Next slide. So we're very confident that our program is going to help businesses identify where digital resources might improve their overall operations, and that we're going to leave them with the training and the upskilling necessary so that the business owner feels confident that he or she can implement the necessary recommendations. Something that we have already anticipated as a challenge is a business's procurement of some additional digital tools. So providing these digital tools sits a bit outside of our program, but of course we're actively working to find solutions here. So I hinted at this a bit in the previous slide when we talked about our partnership with the Better Business Bureau and how we'll send businesses that need but can't necessarily afford the development of a website their way. But outside of website development, there are certainly other digital tools that a business might need. So think search engine marketing, for example, that helps a business actually be found online once their website is set up, or cybersecurity tools so that they are able to keep their e-commerce business protected. And that is a gap as it stands right now. Next slide, please. And what we've found is that these tools, unfortunately, do involve some financial investment that a struggling business owner might find difficult right now. So we did some research on our end just to better understand what these costs might be. And what we found was that a 5-person small business requiring cloud services, so basically Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office, what we're using right now, search engine marketing, so again, that their business, if they have a website, is actually found by consumers over a 12-month period, and cybersecurity awareness training. So those 3 sort of fundamental digital tools could run a business about $4,200 per year. And again, this is a cost that a business might struggle with, but is critical to the success of the digital transformation. And if we can go to my next slide, we can talk a little bit more about that importance. So let's just take e-commerce and cybersecurity as a quick example. So even if a business is able to rapidly deploy an e-commerce site through the Better Business Bureau, if the business can invest in keeping its customers' data safe from hackers, it does face a real operational and reputational risk. So we found, and this is a national statistic, not specific to our region, but 60% of small to medium businesses that experience a data loss or data breach are out of business with a calendar year. So the stakes are certainly high. And we need to collectively ensure that businesses are aware of and have obtainable access to digital tools that are going to help with their success. And I would absolutely love to spend some time during the open discussion ideating on some more potential opportunities here, since we certainly want to close that gap. But if we can move to my final slide. Great. I do just want to quickly wrap up. I'm incredibly optimistic about community, and we're addressing it head on. We know that businesses can't do it alone, so we're going to provide them with all the training resources that they might need. If a business owner is tech literate or feeling a bit uncomfortable, we're going to make sure that we provide that hand-holding. We're certainly not going anywhere. Again, this is a 12-month program with a built-in support structure. So should a business, 1 month, 2 month, 2 weeks down the line need help, those digital transformation specialists are going to be there to do that. And some, digital tools might require financial investment, but we are actively looking for solutions there, and are feeling very good that we're going to be able to migrate local businesses that might be lagging right now into the digital age. So I'll stop there, since I know I went through that presentation quickly, but would love to open it up for feedback or questions.
Andrew, just I want to thank you. I don't know how, so often we just have these assumptions. We do that with our community. We go into a virtual world and, we're assuming everybody, as we gallivant ourselves through through all this opportunities that we have in a bigger organization and having IT and, just we forget sometimes that the reason that businesses fail, even without all the challenges that we have, is their inability to stay and progress with some of the initiatives and some of the competitive elements of the bigger organizations. And so this is really great to be able to identify as we move forward what would be one of the most critical. I know we see it in our community, whether it's trying to get them on census, whether it's voting. We have these challenges that we have this huge gap between what we believe individuals can do and what really happens out there. And so for you to identify such a critical, situation going forward, because that's what I hear a lot in my discussions with small businesses, being a small business owner, it's always that technology frustration that, a lot of things we're supposed to be doing, but we don't have those abilities. So, I've always seen workforce, Layla and I have had several discussions on, as we peek into the future, what are some of the things that we have to do that are very different than what we were doing? And a lot of times we talk about, oh, this is what we've learned. And then when the time comes, we don't put to work what we have learned. And I think this is one huge dimension that's going to be very valuable for all of us. So great presentation. Thank you for identifying that gap and how do we narrow that gap. And of course, Sina, I always say when I have a young individual that please stay in El Paso. What if you get offers, make sure you tell other people before you accept them. And it's great to see our young, talent here in El Paso and the capacity that you have in this presentation. So I want to thank you and Layla, obviously, for taking the time to show us what's out there and how we could support it as a county. Andrea, thank you also for bringing them on board. Thank you.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that and completely agree in that, with COVID, it is a true forcing mechanism for our local businesses to where they might have, had a perfectly viable business without utilizing some of these digital tools. The game has changed a bit, and I think this is a real opportunity to make sure that national businesses that have the resources, that have the digital development, aren't able to successfully poach and potentially destroy some of our local businesses. So I'm really excited to roll this out over the next few weeks and months, and certainly glad to be back in El Paso at least for a bit.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If I could just add, we will plan to make sure that we keep the court updated, not only on this program, but programs like it. Layla and her team have done a great job of pulling together, a lot of different resources for businesses. And so we want to make sure that everybody is aware of those, especially as you all are out talking to various businesses. So thank you for providing us with this platform and opportunity to do so.
And Andrea, I've said this before, probably more than I should, but we're very good at accessibility. And I've always said, whether it's transportation or healthcare or in reality, this is accessibility for small businesses. This is their lack of being, that access is not there for them. And so the county, I think commissioners have done a great job of saying, where are individuals or businesses, where are they blocked from trying to do what everybody else is doing? And to me, this is another area of accessibility. And if something I think we do very well as a county is identify these blockages of people trying to do their work or getting on transportation or whatever it is. But yeah. I think IT is accessibility to everything else that we have. So.
Could not agree more. And you have to be able, as a small business owner, to meet your customers where they are. And the reality is right now they're not in your store. They're online.
Yes.
So we need to help transition them to where their customer demand actually lies.
Thank you. Layla, back to you.
Just thank you for the time, and we, we look forward to answering any questions that you all may have. If there's none today, or if you guys want to reach offline, we're happy to do that, and then, we'll keep Andrea updated on the progress and how things are going. Thank you all.
Thank you for your great partnership,
Oh.
Leila, and everything you and your team are doing. I'm sorry,
Judge?
Commissioner Stout. Commissioner Stout, please.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the presentation. It's quite insightful and really made me think. So you all are working to triage the situation and find and kind of find out what folks' needs are and help them and you give them recommendations on how they can better get to their clients and run their business, especially in this age. But one thing that you talk about at the end of the presentation is the cost that some of those recommendations may entail. And I kind of wonder how many of those 100 companies are actually going to be able to afford a lot of the things that you're talking about them possibly needing, and so maybe something that the county, and maybe it's something we can partner with the city. We can look at. I know that we have set aside some of our CARES Act funding for economic recovery, and maybe that's an area where we can invest in, and look at the 100 companies that you all are looking at helping, and maybe providing some type of grant or something like that to them, for them to be able to deal with the cost of some of the recommendations you all might be providing to them.
We're certainly open to that, and we would certainly appreciate that support. That's something that we've talked about internally is we don't know yet what we're going to be facing. I think a lot of businesses know that they need to make some kind of an investment. They're just not sure how to navigate and really what sources are out there to trust and really to evaluate which one makes sense for for their business. I, for one, I'm a business too, and I'm getting inundated with different vendors. So I can imagine, other businesses are in the same world. And for me, I'm trying to figure out which one makes sense. How do I figure out this one? It might be $5,000 and this one's $10,000. Which one do I pick? And a lot of that is just overwhelming on top of trying to sustain the business. So that's really where our specialists and our consultants are going to help them at least come to a decision point and say, let's look at your business, let's determine what you need, and then is that business going to be in a position to make an investment, whether that's a big or small purchase. That's what we don't know. That's what's unknown. And some businesses might be able to spend some, but not all of it. So that $4,200 is just like an average that we think might be needed. But certainly any kind of financial support that the county is able to provide to leverage on top of this would be really appreciated, and would likely go a very long way for as many businesses as we can help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that maybe we can work. I mean, if the judge and Commissioner Leon agree, that we can direct our staff to kind of work with y'all and see if we can develop some type of program that would piggyback off of what y'all are doing, and say, okay, you all come in and make the recommendations, and then we see what people need and what their capacity is to be able to acquire those needs, and if they're having difficulties, we can come in and possibly provide some assistance. Because I mean, the last thing we want to do, I mean, it was very clear to me in your presentation that high numbers of businesses, if they can't make these transitions, and if they can't pivot, and if they and if they don't have the money to buy just the infrastructure or the programming or whatever they need, then they're going to go under, and that's the last thing that we want to happen. And so I think that's an area where we can possibly look at spending some of that money that we set aside for economic recovery. I think there's $5 or $7 million that we set aside. We may have spent some of it down already, but I think that would be good use of that funding.
Thank you.
And just, I know it's obvious you're in county commissioner's court, but I think, the county has additional, the businesses in the county and our discussions with the rural mayors, they have such more of an additional challenge that I've seen so if you could sort of look at, what are some of the things in the county where they have these additional challenges. And you hear them so much. Whatever happens in some of the other areas, it's almost like, twofold in the county areas and the county businesses. And so just to keep an eye out on that division between, what are some of the county challenges that we have in the businesses within the county. So
Absolutely.
Thank you, Leila.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrea, thank you so much as well. Jessica?
Item number 7, receive a presentation regarding the Hiring Our Heroes program and further hear from the participants who interned at various County of El Paso departments last month.
Hey, good morning, good morning, Judge, Commissioners. This is Carl Dwyer. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome, Carl. We can. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good morning or good afternoon. Not sure if my camera's working. But first of all, I want to say thank you for taking the time to consider this agenda item. I think this is the first time, it's not the first time that the county has participated in the Hiring Our Heroes corporate fellowship program, but I think it is the first time that the interns or the fellows have actually come before the court to present to you and share their experiences, their lessons learned, and just, share with you and give you some feedback on their time spent with the county. Judge, as you know, in many of the forums we both attend, we're trying to do a lot to show our veterans, what El Paso County, what they mean to El Paso County. So this is an example of putting words and actions and deeds behind your words, not just talking about it, actually being about it. So we really thank you for that. So this morning, we're lucky to have 3 of the 4 current fellows that presented. 2 will present on agenda item number 7 about their experience with their said department, and then the last one will present on agenda item number 8. I'll turn it over to Ms. Keller, and he'll present on agenda item number 8. So again, on behalf of all veterans, transitioning soldiers, and from a former Hiring Our Heroes alumni myself, I want to thank you all for supporting this program. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tanya Williamson. She is the program coordinator, program manager here for Fort Bliss, and she works closely with the HR department, Fort Bliss, the community, and myself to make sure we can appropriately slot the fellows. So I'll turn it over to Tanya, who will be followed by our 2 presenters for this item, Mr. Charles Dees and Mr. James Miller. So Tanya.
Thank you, Carl.
Mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for finding room in your agenda. I know y'all are very busy people, and we are a captive audience now that we're all virtual. So I certainly appreciate your time. If you'll allow me, I have just a few small, short remarks to let you know a little bit about what we do at Hiring Our Heroes. But I want to thank the Commissioner's Court and the judge. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Tana Williamson. I'm a program manager with Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program. Hiring Our Heroes is a nonprofit nationwide initiative to help transitioning service members and military spouses find meaningful employment opportunities. Of course, my focus is El Paso area and the surrounding communities. I have a little small bit of eastern New Mexico in Otero County. And since our initial cohort at Fort Bliss in 2016, we've introduced 160 transitioning service members to the corporate and civilian workplace here in El Paso. And today, I'm happy to say you'll meet a few of them shortly. We have 4 of the fellows from our current cohort who have been conducting their fellowship with the County of El Paso. And I certainly hope that you've had the opportunity to at least meet them at least once. I am so fond of them because I appreciate their proactive approach to their transition, and I know what skills they can bring to you in the county. So I'm going to list them in no particular order. Guys, I'm sorry, no particular order here. We have James Miller, Charles Dees, Andreas Peterson, and Justin Lim. Our hope at Hiring Our Heroes is that you will, you the employer, will recognize the pipeline of talent that we bring to you. And that we have in the transitioning service member right here at Fort Bliss, and that you'll utilize our program and host a fellow, you at the county, and then please in your network, explain to them how important this program is, and you'll be able to see the capabilities for yourself. Now, before I close, I have to thank a few people who have made this presentation possible. Obviously, Michelle, I'm going to butcher your last name. I think it's Cochran or Corcoran. I apologize for the pronunciation. Ramon Bracamontes, Betsy Keller, Melissa Carrillo, Robin Sully, and Hopeton Staple. And last but not least, the one who helps us at every opportunity with this program, your El Paso County Veteran Program Manager and former fellow, Mr. Carl Dwyer. So with that, my presentation, thank you very much. And I would like to introduce, I think, James, right? James, are you first?
No. Charles, it should be Charles. Charles.
My apologies. Charles, you're up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Tana. Judge, commissioners, good morning. My name is Charles Dees. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share my experiences as a Hiring Our Heroes fellow with the county's Facilities Management Directorate. Next slide, please. This is my agenda that I'm going to talk about in this short presentation. We're going to address these 4 topics here of integration, organization, my learned experiences, and the project that I worked on while I was here. Next slide, please. To start with, my integration with the team, I was introduced to the managers, supervisors, as well as some of the employees, some of the key players in the different departments throughout the facilities management, but not only throughout the facilities management, but throughout the county courthouse as well. And that goes from Mr. Wally Hargrove, giving his budgeting presentation, to the medical examiner down at the ME office downtown. The support that I've received from the team has been nothing but phenomenal, to say the least. From the first day I entered the office, the mentorship, the guidance, dialogue, the workspace presented to me by Mr. Sully, to getting me set up with the internet and email with Ms. Viviana, and finally the collaboration and the multitude of questions answered and the shared knowledge by Mr. Eric Hernandez. Next slide, please. With the organization, Judge, from the point of integration, each and every person that I encountered were welcoming. Each and every one displayed a positive one-team attitude that this created a warm climate, knowing that this team values people, both employees and the community itself. Now, I was introduced to the organizational structure within this organization. I enjoyed because it kind of allowed me to fully understand how the team is organized and the collaboration between its teammates. And when I talk collaboration and we talk communication, the communication was extraordinarily displayed throughout because it included me as the intern or the fellow within the directorate. Although each had their priorities and their work being done, everyone communicated consistently, especially with the amount of shared knowledge from the SMEs that I encountered in answering some of the questions, actually a lot of questions in regards to maintenance and processes, which goes into My next slide, please. With the learned experiences, although the presentation is an overall experience aspect with the county, much of the learned experiences over the last several weeks have been in work order processes, priorities of work, ongoing maintenance projects within the county, and finally with the resumes and hiring processes. Having an aviation background throughout my 29 career years in the military, the production control and the quality control was very familiar to me. So when it comes to work orders and priorities of work, that I was able to associate with my own experiences and to relate to those. I was able to gain some insight into the ongoing projects within the county. I was able to witness maintenance at the detention centers, at the courthouse, the medical examiner's office, and the parking garage. I was then able to observe the resume screening process, which it helped me from a different perspective to understand what it's like from the interviewer versus being the interviewee. So that was phenomenal to me. Next slide, please. And then lastly, Judge, Commissioners, finally, the project I was given was to research and develop a recommended course of action for the director in regards to thermal imaging cameras in the entranceways of the courthouse. In doing so, I came up with 4 courses of action, discussed the advantages, the disadvantages, a feasible cost analysis that was entailed with suitability and meeting the intent of what Mr. Sully presented to me. Throughout the analysis, Mr. Sully allowed me and gave me the autonomy to develop these courses of action, develop the plan, yet consistently communicate the intent throughout the whole time within the project. Next slide, please. And then lastly, I think it's very important that transitioning veterans such as myself gain this knowledge as we transition into the civilian workforce. And from my experiences and how the county of El Paso works with and for the community, if it weren't for the Hiring Our Heroes fellowship program allowing me to do this, I would not have had the opportunity to gain or develop this understanding as I transition into the workforce. I found myself throughout these several weeks here working in facilities management with the county so much rewarding in my own transition that I will be looking to apply for my next career here. But Judge, Commissioners, Ms. Keller, everybody, Carl, Ms. Williamson, I really appreciate this opportunity. And pending any questions, this concludes my portion of the brief, and I'll be followed by Mr. James Miller.
Thank you, Charles, and I'll make my comments after everyone presents. But it's amazing the alignment, what you can offer and what we can offer. The two coming together is really exciting. Thank you, Charles. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, Judge, Commissioners, Mr. Dwyer, Ms. Williamson. Thank you all for the opportunity to have me here with the Fleet Operations Department. It's been a great experience. The next slide, well, I don't know the slides, but I'm going to go over my topics of pretty much based on my experience working within the county with Mr. Staple. The knowledge gained, how service members can benefit from the program, and how the county can benefit from the program as well, and some areas that I think will help both in going forward in the future. My experience with working with Mr. Staple has been a great one. I got introduced to the various departments, his employees, which welcomed me with open arms. Same there, Mr. Staple. He didn't know me at all and came in. He took me in, introduced me to the various departments, the sheriff department, the 911 center, which and plus, being at the sheriff's department, the maintenance office there, everyone comes in, the constables, the sheriffs, all the workers comes in there because they got to get their vehicles repaired or re-inspected, something like that. So I get a chance to communicate with everyone there. So it was a great opportunity for me. Also, during the process, I got to learn about the history of El Paso, which was very fascinating because some of the things I did not know about the history of El Paso, which was a great thing to learn. I also had a chance to visit the Fabens Airport, which is, I think, it's a diamond in the rough. I mean, that could be used for very good things. The Tornillo Port of Entry, the Rural Transit Bus Facility, the County Jail Annex, the 911 Call Center, which is a great operation. Got a chance to see there. It's very high tech, and this is like the first one I've been to, but it's very great. The County Courthouse, which I'm here now, and an opportunity to go out to the homeless center, the Opportunity Center for the Homeless, and Ascate Park. I also got a chance to do several meetings with Mr. Sal Alonso, the transportation manager, getting some insight on TxDOT and some of the county's transportation operations. For me, the knowledge gained was how to overall manage a budget. I mean, Mr. Staple, he does an outstanding job with managing the budget, the fleet that he's working with, to make sure that all the vehicles are roadworthy and stay on the road and capable. I think that's a big task. Also got to learn about, the process of ordering new vehicles and equipment and parts through the general funds, special revenue funds, grants, bids, contracts, and the cooperatives. With him being in the position that he came in and streamlined processes to reduce waste as far as parts that's being on the shelves that have been sitting there for years. He's doing away with that to make sure they get just-in-time parts when they need it. That reduce the waste of having stuff that's sitting on the shelves for time periods. His relationship with the vendors, he has a great relationship with the vendors throughout the county to help get the new vehicles prepared as they come in for the sheriff's department or any other department, and also keeping them maintained. The county officials, I got to meet a lot of the county officials, which was a great opportunity for me, and also helped me increase my network, going forward with the individual within the county. So how the program would benefit service members. It gives service members like myself an opportunity to go into the community, work with the community, the county, or the city, or any private entity to gain experience or to show, okay, I can do this. So I thought I didn't know what I was doing coming in here, but I can see that some of the skills I have do transfer into what he does, since I have a transportation and logistics background. So it kind of transfer, and plus my administrative skills transfer over greatly as well. I got to learn some real world practices, such as managing a budget, using lean processes to reduce waste and redundant procedures. Like I said before, I got a chance to go out into the community of El Paso, the county, and the city, and meet new people. So they kind of grew my network, expand my horizon, and also got a chance to be more comfortable with myself and, understand my value that I can bring to an organization. For the county, it gives the county an opportunity to see some of the brightest. I know sometimes the military get a bad light, due to some of the trouble some of the folks you get into, but it gives the county and the city an opportunity to see what we have to bring to the table as far as service members that's transitioning. We have a lot of skills that sometimes we don't think about that we do have that we can bring to the table, whether it be admin, leadership, and so on and so forth. Can't name them all, but there's a lot that we bring to the table, and sometimes it takes us to go out and to realize what we can do, and also show the community, okay, we do have this experience we can bring to the table, and just give us the opportunity. We can show that we have what it takes to make your business successful. It develops a more comprehensive understanding for the county of the veteran job market. I think some industries do not understand, our background, what we can bring to the table. Most people just think of us as being warriors instead of, people that have actual jobs that do move the military forward in some way or another. And we also we have ability to share knowledge, skills, and abilities that we gain. Since there are a lot of veterans within the county that I've met, so they get to bring their knowledge from the military into what they do. And plus, us coming out, they get to share with us their experience, and we get to gain knowledge from them that can help us move forward as we progress in our career or whatever we take on after, the military. Next slide, please. And the last slide, just some improvements, I think. The county was a great opportunity for me. I think expanded it to more departments within the county, I think would be absolutely great. Also, getting the city on board to participate and maybe some local businesses to take on more fellows from the military here, I think it'd be a great opportunity. Before the program, I didn't know much about El Paso. I didn't know much about county government or city government. But now I've gained more knowledge about El Paso. That's great. I got to know about, county and city governments that I did not know about before. So it's been an outstanding opportunity for me. I thank you all for the opportunity. I hope the next fellows that come behind me have a better opportunity to go forth and do better things and do more with the county, the city, and the local industries here in El Paso. And thank you, Ms. Williamson, for working with me. And just like to thank all the employees for all my 10,000 questions that I ask them like every day about different processes that they do. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Great job.
Thank both of you for your briefing. Judge, there is one more briefer, but as I stated earlier, he's on agenda item number 8. So I don't know if you just want to save all of your Hiring Our Heroes comments or questions to after he briefs. And we did have one other participant, Mr. Justin Lim. He participated and worked in the Department of Human Resources. He's sends his apologies. He's at home sick, under the weather right now. But I know Melissa is on the line, so I don't know if Melissa, if you wanted to maybe say a few words on James' behalf and the experience that your department experienced with him before we move on to agenda item number 8.
I don't think she's on.
Thank you. Go ahead, Melissa.
I don't think she's on.
Oh, she's not on? Okay. I thought she was still on. But
Carl?
Yes.
I can mention just during these past 8 weeks, Justin Lim, has been on the internship with HR. I have met with him. He's presented actual work programs to me as proposals as part of the budget. He's helped us with some pretty complex pay studies. He's done the research of looking at other counties. He's looked at job descriptions. He's done a really great job, extensive research, and then having to present to me, which is never easy for our departments, and all the questions that I have and responding to them and knowing like the information I'm going to want. And so just in my experience working with Captain Lim, he was fully engaged. It did not appear to me that HR held back on him in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure it was quite the extensive learning process for Captain Lim as well.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Again, Judge, that will conclude item number 7. So once again, on behalf of the Veterans Program and all the veterans here in El Paso County, thank you all for your support. I'll be followed by Ms. Keller in item number 8.
Well, thank you. I just want to make a few comments to the fellows. This is an amazing, so many collateral things that happen. I mean, we talk about the fundamental of that you've all discussed, but you being able to take a peek inside our organization and then realize and feel good about it, you become extreme, advocates, because I think we do have a great organization. So more veterans would be more interested in us. And then the other way around is that we take a peek into the world of what a veteran can do, and as they come out of the military, and the alignment is amazing. We've always said that you go through the type of training that sometimes in our case it might be a couple of seminars or something in leadership, for example, whereas leadership is the core of what you do within the military. And so you understand that importance of leadership, the importance of how you do things, and the process and the systems that come with it that are so much a part of the military. I also feel really good about the fact that Mr. Staple and Mr. Sully and Melissa, how you've recognized something that we see ourselves and how great they do and the things that they do, but just hearing it from someone from the outside and you recognizing them, because I don't think we recognize our department heads as much as we should, and this is one more opportunity to highlight them and talk about what they do, because that's the way we perceive them as individuals that highly motivated. I keep telling Betsy, where do you get these people from? Where they come from? Like they're all so productive and very capable of doing what they need to do to move forward. So I want to thank you, the fellows, for recognizing them. And Carl, just the work that you've been doing in such a short period of time is just amazing. And Betsy, trying to keep this relationship going. Fort Bliss and the military is so big, for us, and the more individuals that come from the military and stay in El Paso and find an interest or a career path, the more we become the city that we want to become. That's it's veteran ready. Keep pushing my being the veterans capital of the U.S. and this is all part of that puzzle that we want to feel good about from our community, that we are this veteran-ready community, that we don't just talk about it. These are real things that are taking place as you discuss your experiences and bringing them to us. I mean, I know you guys focused a lot on what we did for you, but I can imagine all the things that you brought to the table, different insights, different technologies, things that we might not be aware of to get us on the right path as well. So once again, thank all of you for the great work that you do, Tana. This is an amazing experience and opportunity for us. So thank you for heading that this initiative with Betsy and everyone concerned. So once again, thank you. Our future is Fort Bliss in the military, but we have to show more and more partnerships that are real and practical. So this is one big one. Thank you.
Item number 8, receive a presentation from Andreas Peterson, hiring our Heroes Fellow regarding EP Exceed, the Continuous Improvement Program.
Andreas, do you want to go ahead and get started? Your sound is still off.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. I am Andreas Peterson, hiring our Heroes Fellow, assigned to the County Administration Office under Mrs. Betsy Keller. But before I begin, I just want to thank you for your time for today. And I want to officially state that El Paso County is a very diverse organization with a tremendous pool of talent. From the commencement of my fellowship interview through the onboarding process, Mrs. Keller has been extremely helpful in my understanding of county operations and the level of professionalism, foresight, and dedication of its leaders. I am truly honored to have been blessed with this opportunity to learn and improve on my civilian skills with her. In my interview, I expressed an interest in strategic operations and process improvement. So it was no surprise I partnered the first week with Mrs. Keller, who taught me the overall big picture of county operations and processes, and participated in the many operational meetings she conducts. I've also received mentorship on the county's budgeting operations from Mr. Hargrove, who, if I may add, is a wealth of knowledge and expertise, puts the fund in financial fundamentals. The past few weeks, I partnered with Dr. Liseli Madrigal, the strategic performance manager, another GM within the county administration team. During this time, I've been a part of the foundation of the strategic performance improvement framework in which she has laid. Through her coordination and direction, we have met with department heads and dived into key performance measures to validate SMART goals and metrics, and offer suggestions and improvements. It was very refreshing to see how open they were to implementing changes and validating the metrics, adhering to the county's values of EPIC, excellence, professionalism, integrity, and creativity. We do love our acronyms in the military. We conducted extensive research and consulted with experts in different organizations who have proven techniques. Incorporating my background in operations, training management, and process improvement, paired with the in-depth hands-on experience I was only able to gain through participating in the Hiring Our Heroes program and partnering with El Paso County, led to the creation of a program focused on the continuous improvement of El Paso County. It's a win-win, if you ask me, and I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to my community. We can start on slide 1, please. Thank you. This morning, I will give a brief overview of a proposed program initiative, EP Exceeds. The goal and objectives of this program is to efficiently and effectively improve the county's systems and procedures from performance enhancement and process improvements. These are the following areas we will briefly discuss. EP Exceed objective, how do we do it, an overall summary on how we achieve the objective, the process, a closer look into the process improvement training program modeled after the best practices of award-winning counties and cities such as Fort Collins, Colorado. Are we there yet? A proposed roadmap on how to initiate the program using process improvement methodology, a long-lived program. Some brief suggestions on how to embed the program and ensure it is an anchor point for county operations. And then finally, I'll entertain any questions you may have. The objective of this program is to educate county employees on the basis of El Paso County's process improvement program, EP Exceed, in order to gain efficiency, effectiveness, and quality in county operations and contribute to the overall benefit of El Paso citizens and our community. The individuals, they will learn the process in which to define, measure, analyze, implement, control projects or processes to choose the best course of action, reevaluate if necessary, and properly document lessons learned for future use. How do we do it? This is a deliberate step-by-step process in which we work with each department to validate their objectives and refine performance measures and processes, which Dr. Madrigal has already initiated. This step is crucial in ensuring not only objectives are measured correctly, but the correct objective is the target that will improve the area of concern. We then initiate and implement a training program to ensure employees learn process improvement tools and techniques to be successful in achieving organizational goals. As always, part of the learning process is ensuring those hard lessons learned are documented and stored to be utilized in the execution of future projects or processes. The end result will be the improved internal systems and being able to provide greater service to the community. Next slide, please. The process. The first step in the process is ensuring key staff members are trained in process improvement methodology, monitoring, and the capabilities of its tools. The key staff in this instance is the personnel assigned to the Strategic Performance Office. The next two steps are very important. This is a leadership-driven program that cannot function unless leadership makes a commitment to the process. The key staff will in turn train department leadership and senior managers. Leadership will then engage their employees on the culture change and the way ahead. After such a time, the implementation of the courses will be finalized and the initial group of classes will commence. They will receive training on the tools of the process improvement and given worksheets and guides to enhance their learning. They will also be assigned a simple project to complete during the course. And just like any other process, a period of constant evaluation will commence. Using the tools of process improvement methodology, surveys, and focus groups, we will measure the impact of the course and refine training until the desired result is obtained. The course schedule will then be published and advertised countywide, and the final step is to record, track, and archive results of the program. Next slide, please. Are we there yet? According to process improvement program initiation methodology, this is not a quick fix solution, and there are no quick fix lasting solutions. It's a deliberate and methodical action. This chart lays out a proposed timeline for program introduction. The program cannot start without the selection of personnel who will care and grow it. Next will be a more in-depth look at the design of the program, coupled with leadership. I say again, coupled with leadership being involved with the selection and identification of projects/processes that will be incorporated by the training. with the assistance of the strategic performance manager. Once all the data is compiled, it is reviewed and prioritized. Key staff begins their training in month 2 and will continue in 4-week phases until all personnel are trained at the appropriate level. This does not hinder the publishing or implementation of the program. Key staff's base training is segmented to aid learning. For example, a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt is a total of 4 weeks of training, but it's spread out over 4 months. That's 1 week of training and then 3 weeks of project work, and then the cycle repeats. Around the 6-month mark, we should start seeing results from the initial classes that attended the training from the simpler projects, whereas the more complex projects will of course take longer to improve. Next slide. Unless a program is embedded in the culture of an organization, no matter the size of the organization, it will eventually fail. These are recommendations to anchor the program into the county daily operations. Integrate at the mid and senior level management first, embed into daily activities of operations, validate the employee evaluation process coincides with performance-based change. The third one is very, very important if you want this to stick. And then incentivize the program through gain sharing or bonuses for overall highest performance ratings. While I am aware that statutorily the county cannot directly give monetary bonuses, some examples of incentivizing includes paid administration leave, waiving the gym fee for maybe 6 months, free parking for 90 days, or just county swag bags. Next slide. While this program is in its infancy stage, we will attempt to answer any question that you may have. If there are none, thank you for your time, and I will be followed by Dr. Liseli Madrigal.
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. Liseli Madrigal, County Administration. I want to take this opportunity to thank Andres Peterson for his work in the initial phase of the county's process improvement program. Andres and I had an excellent collaboration in the last few weeks. We met with experts in the field of process improvement, like the City of Fort Collins FC. Learn more about the process improvement in the context of local government. Further, as an outcome of our meeting with Fort Collins team, we were invited to participate in the process improvement 3-day training scheduled next week, free of cost. The knowledge gained from the training and Andres' expertise will help me develop the next phase of VP Exceed. Again, I'm grateful to Andres for sharing his knowledge with me on process improvement and helping me jumpstart this program. Any questions for us?
Thank you, Dr. Madrigal. Judge, I think your mic is silenced.
As Jose said, that's never happened to me. Yeah, right. But anyway, you know, Dr. Madrigal, Andreas, I can tell you music to my ears, because from my training with Deming to Michael Hammer and Process Enterprise, to being very involved in Malcolm Baldridge as an examiner, you know, with both actually in Colorado, winning the state Malcolm Baldridge, in New Mexico, winning the New Mexico Malcolm Baldridge. There's two things that you mentioned that are extremely important, and one of them is that continuous improvement is not a campaign. And people want to throw out a campaign, and a campaign starts and finishes, right? And this doesn't start and finish. You have to integrate it into the process, into the culture, where everyone understands what's happening and why we're doing what we're doing, and everybody understands. It's almost like a choreographed, where everybody understands the importance of continuous improvement and is always trying to figure out how can we do it better, how can we be more effective in what we do. And the other one that you said is, it's something, a lot of things we can delegate from the top, but you don't delegate this one. If leadership is not a big part of it, it doesn't happen. And then I've seen it over and over, where leadership feels that it's something that you pass on to everybody else, and then they should do continuous improvement and somehow bring it up to them, and that's the way it works. And here, if you don't integrate into the culture, if you don't integrate leadership as part of the continuous improvement, it doesn't happen. And I think you have a great opportunity here with the county, because they do understand that. And I always make reference to me coming in on board and thinking, oh my God, I've been with
done all this, organizations and, corporate America. Oh my goodness, I wonder how bad it is to work for the county. And then I got shocked at how much was happening and the things that are being done and the things Betsy has brought to light, the strategic planning, the key indicators, all of these things, the monitoring, the scoreboards. So I think you have some really fertile ground for continuous improvement. And then how do we go about that? And Betsy and I and the commissioners have talked a lot about finding an administrative model. What's our administrative model that we can all understand? I've talked about one of the perfect examples. I was talking to a nurse at UMC, and she was talking process enterprise, and I knew from her discussion and the way she addressed the flow and the process, and I said, you know what? Oh my goodness, you guys would be great for Malcolm Baldridge. And she said, oh, actually, that's what we're doing at this point. And the reason I bring that little story up is that here from a nurse, from everyone, they understand what the goal is. And I think a lot of other projects that are not part of continuous improvement, or they're very specific, people really don't know what is it that I'm doing that's part of the connection of the big picture, where you feel good about. Like, this is what I do. And maybe in a small scale, they don't realize how important it is, but then they realize how they connect to the overall strategic plan of the organization. And so, like I said, music to my ears, what you're doing, I'm very grateful that you're looking at continuous improvement. No, probably never, ever has been so important as now, because we have to see things from a process understanding. We have to do a lot with very little. And that's what continuous improvement is. A lot of it is, being efficient and very effective, but efficient in the sense that you have less to work with, but you're more successful because of process and continuous improvement. So, Andreas, thank you very much for sharing your background and your contribution to something that's very important. I know Betsy have talked about it for a long time. That's why we have Dr. Madrigal, because that's why we believe in this. And I think this is another way to kick it off. And once again, not kick it off, because I shouldn't have used that term, because it's not a campaign. It's a culture. It's a culture of how we do things. So thank you very much. Like I said, it brings back a lot of great things about organizations that I've been involved in. And it's always great to know that the county can lead. I've always said we're a role model. People look at us to see how we do things. So once again, I've always said it's hard for me to go out there if we're not doing it. It's hard for me to advocate things in the community if we're not doing them. But when we are doing them, oh my goodness, it just facilitates my ability to be an advocate for other businesses to do what we're doing. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Judge, commissioners, before we let Andreas or Dr. Madrigal go, I want to really express my appreciation. When we did the interviews for the Hiring Our Heroes, I wanted to hire and keep all of them for my office. They were all so talented. They had so much to bring to the county. I'm looking forward, even when Andreas's time is up, I'm looking forward to continuing supporting him any way we can, as well as our other veterans who have been in the program. But they did all talk about what they brought to us, but I don't think we can ever finish repaying what they've done for them, for what they've done for the county, and not just for the county, but for our country as well. And so having this opportunity, big thanks to Carl for really making us all more aware of the Hiring Our Heroes program. Thanks to HR and to Wally for helping to support it. But during this time, I went, when Andreas first started, we worked in the office together, socially distanced with masks, so that we could really hit the ground running and get him up to speed on what's going on at the county. And it made me want to have the ability to hire all of them. They're just so talented, such a pleasant person to work with. I really enjoyed my time with Andreas, and we were able to have conversations that I wish I had the opportunity to have those conversations with every county employee. We talked about everything from culture, process improvement, diversity and inclusion. We went through the experience of the George Floyd aftermath and had really deep, meaningful conversations about that. It has been so rewarding for me to have this opportunity to work with our heroes. So thank you all so much. Thank you for allowing us to support programs like these and encouraging us. And thank you for your support and encouragement on the continuous improvement. Dr. Madrigal has done a lot of work, and I have to acknowledge that she's done a lot of this during the time that being a fairly new employee and doing it during a pandemic with very little face time other than online. So we were going through these major transitions. I am really confident that we're going to have an award-winning continuous improvement program. She's already thinking beyond what's normal and standard, really thinking measures and relating it to everybody's performance metrics. I'm really excited for what our future holds where it comes to strategic planning, performance metrics, and continuous improvement. So thank you both so much. I really appreciate your work, and thank you to the court for being so supportive.
Thank you, Betsy. Great comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Judge, this completes all the items on today's agenda.
Are you serious? I was just going to let you out for lunch. So it's going to be a long lunch now. So thank you very much. Thank everybody that's on the call, all the support we get from Miguel and Alexis and Jessica and Caesar and everyone else. It does not go unnoticed that there's a lot of things in the background that take place, and we appreciate that. And commissioners, everybody else, have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. Tanya, thank you very much for being in our program today. Thank you.
Y'all stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of the week.
This concludes today's meeting at 12:13 p.m.